at it is currently Tuesday, January 11th, and this is the Colmar Manor Town Meeting. And before starting, I'd ask for a motion from my council to start the meeting at 7:09.
Councilmember Hobbs make that motion.
The second,
Councilmember Harding, I'll second that motion.
all in favor, say aye, or raise your hand to be known.
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As we go through the meeting, just a couple of points, because we have a lot of things to cover on this meeting. I would like to ask for people to keep their remarks up. Well, we have some presentations, and if you can make your presentation as concise as possible, would be very much appreciated. Council, if you could keep your reports to 3 to 4 minutes. And for public comments, we are going to be strict at 3 minutes on public comments. So we have a lot to cover. We have a lot to accomplish. I want to thank everybody who is on this call from I would like to start with some allegiance and then a moment of silence, a couple of moments of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we can now take a moment of silence to consider and think about so many people who we've lost, and those people's families who are dealing with a lot of pain and suffering, and those are shut in. Let's take a moment of silence and just think about those people. Okay, now if we can take a moment of silence and actually rejoice and be thankful for the great things that we have in our life. You know, so many that have survived COVID, so many whose family has recovered from so many different things, and so many of the blessings that we have in our life. Let's just take a moment and just really rejoice for a second. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. I'm hoping that your year is getting started on a decent foot, and moving forward, everything will be getting better than it has been the last couple of years. To start out this evening, we're going to start out with some codification presentations, and I'm going to let Ms. Jackie Goodall give us a quick overview of what we're about to experience.
Happy New Year to everyone, and good evening. Sometime in the late fall, I was asked to reach out to some companies that could come in and assist Colmar Manor in codifying their codes and ordinances. And so there were 3 companies that responded with a presentation. All of the council and the mayor and Mr. Baton should have copies of those presentations. They were given to you. The companies that responded, all of them have representatives that are online today. Colleen Ingle from American Legal, Laura Ann Shura from General Code, And Tracy, I hope I don't mess up your last name, Stevanov, from Multicode will be doing presentations. It is my hope that the council has questions for each of the companies, and that you will, after you listen to them and they answer your questions, you'll be able to choose one of them or none of them. But I'm going to turn it over to the mayor to be able to handle this, how you choose, and in which order you choose.
Well, I'm just going to go by how it was written on this agenda, and ask, first of all, I'd like to know, if the presenters could please maintain some time for questions. So if you can give like 5-6 minute presentation and then have questions, or let me know if that's not possible based on what it is that you had planned. So starting at the top, we have Unicode.
Yes.
Your
Hello.
name?
Tracy Stefano.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, and I'm going to share my screen if that's okay for just a moment.
Mhm.
So municipal code has been around for 70 years, but as many folks know, we were just purchased by Civic Plus. We have a lot of integrative services like meetings and agenda management that works with our code online. But today we're here to talk about the presentation about the recodification. The most important thing that folks want to know is how much it's going to cost. It's $8,350, and the project takes about 10 to 12 months. And the reason why it takes about 10 to 12 months, and I'm not sure if you can see my screen, is what we call the River of Codification. There's a lot that goes into it with our attorneys. They go and look for inconsistencies within your code against state statutes, and they work with your team to build a new code for your community. Once the new code is created, then we put it online. And I'm going to keep this kind of brief because I know that you have other code companies here and we all do very similar things. We have a very robust search once the code is created and placed online. We have the ability to see the code in any language that you would like to see. And we have a lot of different search and research capabilities with the code online. I'm going to stop here because we offer so many things and we do so many things, but I know that we're really focused on the code today. So I want to go back to the proposal so that you can ask questions about what goes into this project, anything that you have about the timeline, about our team, and then the update service once the code's created and how that's priced. Does anybody have any questions? I know I was very quick, but you're going to see a lot of very similar things from all of us, where I think all of our different codification companies are pretty fantastic. We all have our specialties, and I would love to talk to you about any questions you have about the proposal.
Right, well, I thank you very much for that. In fact, your presentation was perfect. We have got your materials ahead of time. So the
Good.
information that you have to present, we've had an opportunity to see it. So
Wonderful.
I think that it will be better going along to questions. But because some of the questions may be similar, I am going to ask that we go through the process of the presentations and then ask my counsel to submit any questions that they may have.
Okay.
Some for different companies or some for all of you. And so
Okay.
with that said, I want to thank you, Tracy, Tracy Wright, very much.
Yes.
And see if we can get something from American Legal Publishing.
Hi, this is Colleen. Can you see me and hear me?
I can see you.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead, Tracy, go ahead and unshare your screen if you could.
Sure. Let me. There we go.
Beautiful. And then I am going to share my screen. How we doing, everybody? Nice to speak with you all again. I need to do some housekeeping here on my desktop. A couple of things I wanted to go over real briefly. Yeah, Tracy's right. We're all very similar in that we do codification, but the things that American Legal offers is very unique. I'm going to start out. I know we got sick. I'm going to go with 5 to 6 minutes, and I'm going to use it well. One of the things to make a note on, one thing that we allow you to do is we allow all staff and citizens to create an account within the system. And the reason for that is what it does is it unlocks a host of tools that they can all utilize. And I'll touch on those very, very briefly. This is the states that we cover across the country, approximately 3,500 clients nationwide. Just for today, I'm going to open up Maryland. I want to go into Montgomery County. I'm just going to go very briefly. Just logistically, left side of the screen, table of contents, your code is always on the right. On our search screen, a couple of key points to know. This is where it starts to separate us from the herd, is not only can we search for a simple word, but right now we have a location filter applied, meaning I'm only searching Montgomery County. What I have the ability to do, and any staff, any citizen, anyone can do this, is turn off that filter, and then they can actually search all codes that we have across the entire country. So not only just searching trash within Montgomery County, but taking off that filter and then searching all locations we have. And now you'd be searching places like Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas, Fort Worth, Los Angeles, all those heavy hitter clients that we have across the country. So big differences once we can get into the search, pretending that we found what we wanted to look for. A few other things that separate us from the herd is folks being able to follow sections of the code. And all these things that I'm mentioning to you, all of those are covered in your cost estimate of $37.45. We estimate your code to be approximately 150 pages during the recon. If there was an increase in pages, it's $19 per page. If we got up to the 300 page level that you had mentioned previously, that would take us to a total of $65.95, because it would be an extra $19 per page for that extra 150 if you got to that level. We don't think you're going to get there. You can follow sections of the code. Why would you do that? A person in planning or zoning may want to follow that section. If I'm a business owner within your locality, Colmar Manor, I may want to follow the zoning ordinances and things like that. Once I find items, other things that I can do, I can set bookmarks. Why would I want to do that? I'm just going to call you Colmar Manor, CM. Think of bookmarks as being favorites in your browser. So when you come into your system in the morning and you log into it, you could go to all your bookmarks that you've set over time. Okay. The other thing that you can do is turn on your annotations. And what it does is it puts a Post-it note right at the beginning of it. And you can add your note that you would like to discuss either at council, or if it's the clerk who's working on the code, maybe it's the end of the day. So just a lot of tools, and all of these tools, if you're making note of it, separate us from the rest. They're all included in your cost. That sets us apart. I'm just going to look at my notes real quickly. We can search all codes across the country. You can download things directly into Microsoft Word. The other formats that you can do is EPUBs and MOBIs for those e-readers, tablets, things like that. Okay, so lots of options when you're downloading things. Others only give you the option of a PDF or Word. Okay, these days we need a little bit more formatting for our citizenry and our staff. We can also share. I can click on my tool of share and easily copy a link, post it into an email, and send that to a citizen who may have said, hey, where in the code could I find such and such? So a lot of tools, very useful tools. We've got 16 attorneys that are going to work on the codes. Recodification, as Tracy said, approximately 9 to 12 months. And usually the reason for that gap is usually we're waiting on the municipality to get the draft back to us. So that's usually where that delay comes in, because legal will need to go through it. We do not replace your legal counsel. You still need them. They still play a very important part, but we are your codification company at that point. So I think I have hit my high points. I am going to stop my share and I'm back to you, Mayor.
All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Colleen, we'll get back to you in a second with some questions as well, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you, perfect. All right, so now if we can hear from General Code.
Hi, how are you, everyone?
Hello there.
How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me on the call today. If you're not familiar with General Code, we have been in business close to 60 years. We have a little over 130 employees. We have a number of clients already in Maryland, but our company is growing all the time. Back in around the end of last year, we were at 3,100 across the board for our customers. And at the end of last year, we acquired 2 more codification companies. So we are always growing, and we're close to 4,000 customers now across the US. So all the way from the Pacific to the Atlantic, we have grown exponentially over the last few months. And a lot of it has to do with the type of technology we have to offer, with our online code being the basis of our business. So we did send you the proposal, all the information. I gave you a couple of different quotes within one because it gave you some options, but I want to pull up my screen. Let me share it here. Do you see a green screen right now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. These are all the customers we have in Maryland currently, from counties, towns, cities. It varies across the board. Very similar to the other 2 codifiers. We too have a very robust online code, but it's a little different. General Code doesn't classify our code as just a code. It's it's data. So your data can be used across the board for a number of different reasons. So if you have other software within your company or within your town, we use a lot of other technology that can incorporate the content of the code directly into those software for ticketing, permits, and softwares like that. So let me just show you what our online code looks like. There's a couple of different views that you can have with our online code. And this particular one, if you notice here, I want you to notice on the left-hand side, there's a couple of extra files here called public documents. And I want you to notice that a few other things are going to change. Add note. I'm going to log out of our system because ours is a log in and log out product. So that you're internally would have more features to the code. And then others externally, they're a little more limited, but they're not able to download the Word and things like that. So let me just show you this. When you log out of the code, it is very similar to a Google search. You will basically see whatever pieces of code that we're going to codify for you. They're created. This is your navigational bar. Over here is your table of content. And you could do a number of things right from this view here. If you want to print, you can email a section of the code to somebody. When you're not logged in, you can download to a PDF. When you are logged in, you can download to Word. Why would somebody within your community or within your office want to download to Word? We find that a lot of attorneys and your council members, when they're going into the code and they want to make updates to the code, they have to reinvent the wheel or copy and paste, right? Well, in this case, when you're doing a search, or say there's a section of the code, we're just going to pick a section here. And I am a board member, or I'm a councilwoman. I could go ahead and log in on my code, and I want you to notice a few things that pop up when you log in. Things will come back, and I will be able to take any one of these sections here, and I can click on them, click on all of them if I wanted to, and I could say print, and I can go ahead and print them the way they are. They'll open up into a Word document and you print it. I can click email, and it's going to open up an email automatically. There's no copying, pasting of sections and hoping you get the link right. When you actually open up the email, the links come in there, and then you can enter in the email that you want to send it to and write any notes that you want to add to this to send off to your constituent, or to your attorney, or to a developer. Maybe a developer is seeking to do some business in your town, and you need to get more information to him, and you're able to find a few more details for him. The other piece is, yes, when you're in, you can download the Word. When you download the Word, you can download, turn on track changes, make the updates to the document as you see fit, and present it back to the board. But the other key thing here, and what that was brought up, was the fact that you can do searches. We call it multi-code search. Our online code is so robust that when you're in your state in Maryland, if you click on the state itself, and I want to search across maybe just the counties, or maybe type, or within a certain zip code, I could do that. But if I want to add to that, I just basically add these to my search, to these counties, or you can add all of them if you wanted to. And then you go down here and you do a search into, and what's it going to do is search across all of those codes at once. So say, for example, there is something within that code that appeals to you, and it's from a different municipality. So I'm looking here, I'm looking at fencing, and I'm saying, yep, this is it. I want to print this, or I want to email this. So say you as the clerk, you say, yeah, I found it. I can email it directly to my attorney to update, or just give your attorney the access to print to Word. And what they can do is easily click on this button. And when they click on these buttons, the little toolbox comes down and says, hey, what do you want to do? I can either make a note, you can make little Post-it notes throughout the code, and they'll save them for you over here on the left. You can follow this code and say, I want to know when the updates are going to happen. So when someone updates this code from another municipality, and that person will get notifications. You can share it if you want to share it in social media. You probably wouldn't want to share someone else's code in social media, but if it's your own and you wanted to, you could. Maybe something hot and new is happening in your code, and you can do that. But for this sake, you can download it into Word and turn on track change, and you can automatically update your code, and you can submit that into your codifier with all the changes in there without having to copy and paste and try to fix the formatting. Our download and to Word and to PDF holds the format as you see here, which helps when you're going to update the code through general code. The other piece that eCode has is public documents. Public documents allows you to upload multiple documents, anything else you have, agendas, anything you see here. When you load them into eCode, there's no additional cost. Everything I've showed you, everything is included. When the documents are uploaded, there's no charge for those either. And once you upload into eCode, you're also able to create links and share them back to your website. Any codification, any documents or code that's put in here every time you add more documents or we update it, you always think bandwidth, because your website can only hold so much bandwidth too, right? Well, eCode, we always manage it, and we've never had a problem with the amount of documents that people want to load up there, because we're constantly forward thinking for our customers as to what they're going to need within their online code. Lastly, what I do want to show you, and just tell me if you can see this. I'm going to click here real quick. The process for our codification, it does make us, it's a little unique how we take our codification plan to the next level. Yes, there's the signing of the contract, and we're constantly collaborating with the town, with their co-project. But what's great about this is that once you get to the editorial analysis, or the editorial and legal analysis and the manuscripts, your e-code, your online code is online and ready to go. It's all done by review, and we call it an A2, which is an active code review. So you are interacting with your editor, and you can watch and see what they're doing throughout the code project. So and then once it gets through the draft process, all of the approval is done through that. It's all done through the e-code review online electronically. It's a private e-code just to the municipality, so you can see what's happening with your code. And you always have a digital electronic version of your code on hand during the whole project. During this response, so this is how it works on your end. You guys respond to the editorial and legal analysis. The draft is approved, code is adopted, and then we go live once it's adopted. Now, with our proposal, we did two different estimates. One was with and without an editorial review. I think that depending on the need, then we would do the editorial review, but I'm pretty certain there wasn't too much of a difference with the editorial review. Any questions about that? I listed, do you see the two packages up there? You do see them?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just making sure I'm clicking on the right screen so it shows
I
up.
know, it's hard to know.
A couple of monitors going on here, you know how it is now. So we offered the two different ones, depending on if you felt you really needed a legal review. We are $8, $18 per page. We based your code project based on the pages that we were given. You know, if it's a less number of pages, then the number will change, but you have to have a starting point. If it's less, that's one thing. If it's more, then you know what it'll be. It's $18 per page.
Gotcha.
Online code going forward after the first year, you do have the options of 3 different online codes if you wanted to, if you're not going to utilize some things. And we can go through some of those bullet points later on. But eCode 360 evolves every quarter, we're going to say. We have very forward-thinking text. We own this platform. We built this platform. And we find it very easy to use, and it integrates with almost all software that we run into in customers.
All right, well, thank you so much. Lorraine? Is I'm pronouncing that right, Lorraine?
Lorianne, that's fine.
Lorianne, okay, you never know when they come together or not. Thank you. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. One of the first questions I want to ask to Lorianne and Colleen is about languages. I had heard Tracy say that it could be translated. Do your softwares do that?
Yes, they do. Our eCode 360 does. Yes, I did not show that.
Yes,
Okay,
we do.
I just wanted
And
to.
we do as well, Mayor. I could show you the screen real quick if you'd like to see it.
No, it's okay. If you,
Okay, yep.
I just really wanted to, because it was a point made, and so I just wanted to check and see if that was also there.
Good.
I wanted to ask someone said something about 9 to 12 months, but a lot of that time had to do with getting it back from the review period. And I was wondering, what kind of numbers do you see in that getting it back time frame? And is there a reason that it's taking a lot of time in that, or is it just because most of the time municipalities or so forth only meet once a month? And
This is Colleen, Mayor. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes it's just based on how often legal meets with the mayor and the council, and they're going to go over some points. Sometimes they use outside counsel, and they're just a little more burdened. But yeah, and it really runs the gamut. We have some that get it back lickety split fast, and we stay ahead of that curve, and we're right at that 9-month mark. And then we have others that kick it out, and you know, we don't own dynamite, so we can't light them on fire. We can't get them to move.
So how soon,
It is the
when you
name.
have a quick turnaround, how soon can it be completed in that case, when the review period is not taking so long from the municipality itself?
If it goes everything on target, you should be done right around that 9-month time frame.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Another question I wanted to ask, I want general code. So I am a little confused, honestly, in the two packages. So I wanted to ask some clarification. Am I seeing that the package 2, it doesn't include an editorial and legal analysis? Is that correct?
Correct. We, and I had my conversations. It was a question of whether or not it was needed. So I said, well, we'll put a quote together for both either way.
And so if it doesn't have the editorial or legal analysis, it's basically a compilation of all of our codes.
Right, there
But-
still is a review of the code to make sure that everything, like it states in here, that the style, grammar, typographical stuff, spelling errors, they'll make sure all of that is done, but the inconsistencies and conflicts, that part of it would not be done if
Gotcha.
if the town didn't want to do it.
Okay. And
Sometimes they do, and sometimes
your charge is the $18 per page charge, right?
yes, ma'am,
So the price could change if there's less pages.
you got
Right.
it. Yes,
Gotcha.
ma'am. Mhm.
Okay, so then another question I have for all three of you, I'm noticing on general code, and I might have missed it with the others, but the maintenance cost. And general code, I'm gonna first start with you because you have 3 levels of maintenance costs. And so I want to understand what these 3 levels are.
So in this case, in the pricing, we did the first year free, and we do give you the premium E-code 360 upfront. So you'll get premium E-code 360 upfront to see if you would utilize all of those additional features. So I'm scrolling. If you look on the page 3 and 4, I can pull it up if you want me to share it. But there's certain features that wouldn't come. So it's pretty, it's everything in one basket. So you're either gonna get the light that has less features in it, standard or premium, and then whatever those charges are for that level that you purchase, that's it. We don't charge additional for anything within those levels.
Yeah, I kind of really wanted to just know what's the difference in the levels.
So here, I'm gonna show my screen, okay? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you real quickly. I have it up on my screen, but I don't know why it's split here. So can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so here, what I showed you earlier on the E-code, it comes with public documents, e-alerts, you know, it's the whole gamut, all the features that you see here. As soon as you get to the download to Word and up, that is part of our standard E-code, and that's $9.95. E-code 360 Lite starts right from the beginning with the new laws, still the same searching capabilities, the table content, sharing of links, printing, bookmarking, all of that is listed in there. And then the only thing it doesn't have is where we create links to the new laws. So E-code 360 has a placeholder for all new laws. So when a code is updated, which it, you know, when you have new legislation, it happens today. You adopt it today, it's effective today. You send it to general code, it's up on your E-code within 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, depending if you send it at the end of the week, then you got a weekend. So all of that legislation is searchable and accessible into E-code. So if you notice on here, what's included in the light version, these are the features that are included in the standard, and these are the features that are included in the premium.
So just to be clear, in looking at that, I would not be able to download into a PDF if we don't have the premium.
Correct.
Okay, let me ask the others, your maintenance.
This is Colleen with American Legal. So you would be paying Mayor $450 a year to host your code online.
Okay,
And that is your only recurring cost. The only other fee that you have, and I didn't actually hear it addressed, I don't know what general code does, but is then when you submit your ordinances for codification, the per page fee to get those updated into the code.
right,
That's the only other fee you have. There's nothing else. No administrative fees, no other recurring costs. That's it.
all right.
Two costs.
Okay,
Every feature I showed you included.
okay, got you, thank you. And Unicode?
Yes, so ours is very similar to American Legal. It's $450 a year for the code online, which includes Google Translate, a robust search, download to Word, linking to social media, a lot of the basic, features. And then if you wanted to add on some of our research capabilities and ordinance archives and document archival services, those were those optional services. But the basic code online is very robust, fantastic, and that's the only charge to keep it online per year. And then the cost to update it is $19 per page change, which is very similar to the other two codifiers. And we can
Okay,
estimate before you ever move forward, so you have an idea for budget what your supplemental costs will be each time.
gotcha, sounds good. Thank you. I think that's most of the questions I have. I'm gonna open this up to my council to see if they have any questions. Ward 1?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I have no further questions at the moment. I do ask, do we have the emails for contact?
To contact the folks on the phone?
Yes, who just presented. I was wondering if they provided emails.
There are emails on our packages.
Okay.
Mine should be on your front page of the packet.
Thank you, Colleen.
You're welcome, Lee.
Yep, they all are. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Harding. Ward 2, Councilmember.
Yes,
Hobbs.
Serena Hobbs, thank you so much for all your presentations. I've taken some notes and I just have a question to MuniCode. It seems like the quoted price that you've given us, $8,350, is the highest of all the three other firms. And also you charge the maintenance fee. So I just want to just ask a question. What are the advantages for us to select your company as compared with other competitors? What makes you the most competitive to
Sure.
the highest price?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. Our proposal's based on 300 pages, whereas I think some of the others weren't. And so we're kind of factoring in the fact that you might have index, table of contents. And what we can also do is we can do, there's overage charges if you go over the 300 pages, but we can also reduce charges if you go under the page count. And if that's something that would be helpful, we can change the proposal so that if you're closer to the 150 pages, as opposed to 300, then there would be lesser of a charge. But what we tend to notice is that as we're creating these codes, they end up a little bit larger than anticipated, than the 150 because of table of contents and index pages. Unicode offers an integrative approach. We have website design, meetings and agenda management software, and a lot of technology. We're on the Azure Gov Cloud, which is the same as the Pentagon. So we've put a lot of into the product and the software, which most of the companies have too as well. But as far as maintenance fees, we're just the code online fee and then the per page rate. There's no additional maintenance fees. But I think comparatively, if we were all at 300 pages, it would probably be a little bit closer in price. We just tend to go a little bit higher, knowing that the codes tend to end up larger than originally anticipated. You may be changing legislation. You may want to add some sections or items as we go through the process.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I think there is
Councilmember
still like,
Hobbs?
yes, I am seeing the maintenance fee on your proposal on page, just a second.
2.
Yeah, page 2, yes.
That's just the per page rate of $19 and then the annual code online hosting fee of $450 a year. I think-
The My Municode value pricing, there's a 1,195.
That's if you choose all of the optional services and the code online. I know it's a little confusing and but you would either choose the $450 or the $1,195, not both. But I'm glad that you asked that question. That's sort of our bundled pricing. If you wanted the customized banner, the ability to search codes, the ordinance archive, the ability to search and compare previous versions of your code and new versions of your code. So it's you would pick either the value pricing, which includes all of those optional and the code online, or just the $450 code online.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking.
All right, anything else? Councilmember Hobbs?
No, thank you.
Okay, I'll move on to Ward 3, Councilmember Bowles.
Good evening. Thank you so much for your presentations this evening. So if the difference in the prices is based on pages, Ms. Engel, if we were to double yours to 300 from 150, then would your setup cost go from 3475 to 7,000?
No, sir, it'd be 6595.
So that would put you in a range a little above general code. All right, and then thank you. And then I see something about $21 per page after the initial year and 12-point type. So my concern there is that if you're giving us bigger type, you're going to take up more pages, which could cost us more. The other two.
If you wanted that 12-point to be different, Congressman Bowles, we could change that. Yeah. It's
I
not
wish I were
the-
Congressman. I am not.
I'm
Councilman.
sorry. I'm sorry. Councilman. Well, that was a promotion, I think.
Maybe you just spoke me into my future, but I am
Okay.
definitely not.
So
I just,
12-point is our standard, but the client always can overrule that. That's the highest we would ever go. If you prefer to see an 11-point, absolutely not a problem. That's your call.
I
Yeah.
just thought
If
the
our
other two-
intent is never to jack up the page count. In fact, where we do parallel reference tables and things like that, we don't actually count that in your 300 page count. We don't add all that indexing and all of that. It's a 300-page code, not 300 pages of auxiliary data.
okay, and thank you. So yeah, the others had given us their quotes based on 10-point type. So when I saw
Okay.
the 12, I'm a college professor, so
Sure.
I know that can make a big difference in the length of a paper, if you know what I mean. So that would, if your price then went up to what you just quoted, then the others could potentially come down with fewer numbers of pages. I was interested in the comment made by Tracy about sort of overestimating the pages. None of you were provided with any 2021 code codification information, correct? No legislation, no nothing for 2021?
No, I don't believe so, sir.
Okay. And I saw something in general codes commenting about there seemed to be, how was it put? Not missing information, but uncodified legislation adopted from 01/219 through ordinance 07/2020. Please note the complete copies were not available for review. All right, so it feels to me like there's some uncertainty here in what this final price could really look like, because you all don't have everything to look at
Correct.
as we are at this point. And is it true now, general code suggested that if we went with them, we would get their premium services for the first year included in our initial setup fee. Is that true for American Legal and Municode as well?
Yeah, there's nothing extra for us. You're not,
Nothing
there's,
extra for you.
there's
Okay.
there's nothing extra.
But you are 21. When I saw the 21 per page, so in future, is the 19 years and $19 for the first year is 21 per page in the future? Is that the rate going forward?
That 19 page is regarding the increase in your page. If we go over the 150,
Yes, ma'am.
it's 19 per page to bump it. If we go to say 250, 275, it's 19 per page charge for that. Once
Okay.
we go to an online code, now we're going to charge you 21. That is all of your printed material updates and your online updates. And I don't know if we've talked a lot about printed updates and online with the other two, or if there's a difference.
Okay, that's a good question to ask. Another one I have for American Legal, you guys listed in here that if we wanted you to come in person, we would have to pay travel expenses. The other two companies, do you have travel expenses if we want you to come to our site? Or
No,
are you local enough?
we are local enough. I would come on site.
Okay, and is that true also for Municode?
We do a teleconference, just because if our attorneys have to travel, then, their charges for, per diem and all those good lodging and all of that would be assessed. And with the 3 hours that comes, we usually don't have anybody that goes over those 3-hour Zoom or teleconference sessions, but you can definitely opt to have an in-person conference with the attorney. But this is with an actual attorney, not with me, the salesperson, or, so it would be their time that you would be charged for.
Got you. So we would have additional travel expenses for American Legal and Municode, but not for
Right. But Doug, I can tell you in all my years of experience, we've never, ever had to go out. I mean, basically the way all the companies are set up is everything is done through email and portals of shifting documents around. The likelihood that we need to sit face to face with legal or the counsel is minimal. I've never seen it necessary, even with our large clients, New York, Philly, Chicago, Honolulu. Yeah.
Gotcha. I just saw it in your document, so it made me ask.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
We haven't either in our industry, and we haven't seen a lot of that where we have to go on site. And when someone does go on site, it's normally just to review some of the documents. And if it's more of a legal question, you would be in contact with our legal internally and our editors. And there have been times where we brought editors out with us, and yes, I would accompany them if it was needed. But a lot of times, like Colleen just said, a lot of it's done through the web and phone calls and emails. And there's a bat phone. That's what I call it, the bat phone. You always have someone to connect with. At General Code is very easily to get through to us. So.
Got you.
I do want to clarify with the 300, we did quote with 300 pages. I was double checking that myself to make sure. So yes, it would be reduced. And then I noticed one of you guys mentioned going forward, the per page was raised. Ours is not. It's still the $18 per page going forward, even after the code project is done.
I see. Okay.
And yeah, and Minicodes, it's 19 going forward after the project is done.
Okay, and it's 10 for graphics and images for Municode, 10 for General Code. How about American Legal? Do you have a different pricing level for the graphic pages, or?
Exact same, $10, sir.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Bowles, appreciate it. Ward 4, Councilmember Mendoza.
Thank you, Mayor. I
Are you
really
still
don't.
listening to the Spanish?
So I have to tell you, you guys are in Spanish right now. So I'm sorry, you guys. I'm tripping out about this. This is my first meeting with the Spanish interpreters. So it's like I'm tripping off of this. Like I'm listening to myself talk, but it's not. It's Spanish interpreter. Okay, let me stop. I don't have any questions right now. I feel very fortunate that I always go after Councilmember Bowles, and he like gets down to the nitty gritty. So he pretty much what I'm thinking, he like it comes out. So I don't have anything. I thank you ladies for coming out to our town meeting this evening. We have your information, so you will be hearing from us. All right, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Councilman Bowles. Maybe I'm going to reverse the next time. We're going to have you go first.
Mayor, I did, since Melinda doesn't have any question, I did have one more. I believe that the answer to this is yes, but we were told in one of the presentations that we could email and share sections of the code. Is that feature is available with all three services?
Yes,
American Legal, yes.
and
Okay,
Unicode as well. Yep.
all right, thank you.
General code, yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I have just two really quick questions. Folks made me think about as we were going along. So can we, once we make a purchase, once we contract with you guys, can we get access to the systems that you guys mentioned where we can see codes from many different areas which you guys have shown as a feature? Will we have access to that before we wait for ours to be done?
You can with American Legal.
Yes.
You can with Unicode as well. We do have that.
Okay. And so question, when we paying, do we pay before, after, in the middle? I don't know. I mean, I didn't know if it was in the agreements that you sent me or not, but is there a process? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ours are done in milestones. So all the different steps that you have that I showed in that little picture with the squares, there's 5 milestones, 4 milestones, depending on the legal analysis, but that's the way it's billed. It's normally billed over 2 budgets, depending on when it signs, but we'd have to see when, when that happens. General code has been very flexible, especially now during these times with everything that's been going on and some of the municipalities getting hit pretty good. We have found ways to help them in that sense when it comes to the payment. If it doesn't, it's unable to happen at that time. But yes, we have milestones.
For American Legal, Mayor, in the contract that I gave to you, we set it up as a 40-40-20, 40% at contract signing, 40% 30 days after we give you the draft of the code that we have created. And then that final 20% would be 30 days after you receive final product. As Lori Ann said, there's a lot of times we go back, there's some municipalities that need to spend a little more upfront. They've got money in the budget, got to get it out before the new fiscal year. So there's times we jump at 50-50. Whatever the municipality wants, we can accommodate a budgeting. And I totally agree with Lori Ann. Many times it does fall into that 2 fiscal year budgets, because we'll start now in your 1 fiscal budget. And by the time it ends, depending on the timing, we could hit your next budget. So it's always important for you guys to keep an eye on that. But whatever the council needs, we can accommodate.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
And that's very much the same for municipal code. It's paid for over 2 budget years, but like Colleen said, you may have it up front now. You may want to pay half and half. You may want to start with the 2920 that's outlined on that page 3. But it generally can fall over 2 fiscal years.
Okay, gotcha. So last question I have is that when the draft is done, will it be in the same format that we will be providing publicly? In other words, will we be able to do the review in the same format that will be the end format? Am I asking?
Yes, ma'am. For American Legal, I will tell you yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I have concluded any questions I have. I'm just going to ask real quickly if Mr. Baden or Ms. Goodall have any questions that they thought needed to be asked.
I do not.
Okay, great.
I do, Mayor. I have a question, and I would like to thank all of the companies and ladies for coming out. I kind of got the feeling that this is like a Shark Tank. But I'm sure that the any questions that the Council of the Mayor has, in addition, they will be contacting you. But there is one question that I did not hear, and I would like for each of you to answer. Starting with Unicode, what is the cost per printed copy?
That's a great question. So there is no per printed copy. What we always explain is that the 19 per page, some of our clients get 0 copies and they only have the code online. And so the 19 per page is for the editors and the proofreaders and the quality control folks to create that supplement from your ordinances and place it online. So you could get 100 copies, you could get 5 copies. The thing that I always say is the more copies of the code that you have running around, the more chance that you may have several different versions of your code if those codes aren't updated all the time, because we'll send the packet to, let's say, the clerk or whoever who is going to collate that for you. The code online will always be up to date, but those physical copies, they might grow legs, they might walk off. So if you have those, in our proposal, we put 5 printed copies for you. You may want to check those out to folks so that you make sure that those printed copies are always up to date. But to answer your question again, because I got a little long-winded, there's no additional copy charges. It's all included in that 19 per page. So it's just for the first copy, you could say.
Okay, and American legal, and I'm going by you because that's what I'm seeing on my
Okay.
screen.
Hello, Jack.
What would it cost per printed copy, and how many copies you get?
So that's an excellent question, Jacqueline. So in your contract, I allotted for the Colmar Manor to select anywhere up into 10 copies, 10 printed final copies of the code, and that includes binders and tabs. So that question you brought up is a really important part, because not sure everybody includes the binders and the tabs. Maybe it's just print, but you'll get up to 10 copies, and you guys are going to decide how many you want. Okay, each one of your supplemental updates, say you selected to have 7 printed copies, you're always going to get 7 printed copies of your updates. The only thing you're going to pay for is that shipping out of the materials. There's no extra fees for having printed copies down the road. And there's no additional fee beyond that $7.45 for those copies that come with your initial code. So you're going to get 7 binders, say 10 binders with tabs, with printed codes, all shipped to you.
And general code?
Ours is included in well, and we are providing 2 code volumes with binders, with tabs. That's a standard for general code. We don't normally put more than that in there because it's kind of like what Tracy said. We don't like to encourage the paper copy. We want to get as many people on board with the online code. So what we do in place of that is offer on-site training with a lunch and learn, so that you can reduce the paper copies that you have. So we come on site, bring food, which everyone loves, and we show everyone how to, even though it's easily usable online, but internally there's a lot of extra things, and sometimes people don't take advantage of all those features. So when we come in and we do it for the whole, the whole municipality, it reduces the number of paper copy. You can get additional copies of the book. They'll contact you at the end of the project before we print the 2 that come with the project, and it does come with binders and tabs.
Okay, thank you. And then because I am of an older person, that even though I know that it's available online, I like to touch paper. I'm a
Jackie,
feeling kind of
I
girl.
like
So
paper.
thank you all so very much.
Jackie,
Hey,
Miss
Jacqueline,
Jackie.
one of the things we find is is we always like to have a copy in council, because there's members of the citizenry who are not computer savvy, or they do not have a cell phone. And we don't want to exclude that population. We also favor having a printed copy, because many times legal likes to do electronic research, but if they got to do a lot of reading, studies have been done, your brain works different from a book than it does from electronic. So, we want to make sure that everybody's covered. I'm out here in Southern California. All our clerks out here have what's called clerk in a box, and their clerk actually has a printed copy for when we have our 9.0 earthquake and we have no internet. They're still going to be able to do things because it won't have the internet. So we always want those allowances in there.
In that spirit, if I can interject, I'm one of those past middle-aged people who enjoys paper as well, but we also have a rather large proportion of our population that do not
Right.
speak English as a primary language. So I was going to ask about copies in Spanish.
What you could do, Councilman, is do a translation and a print perhaps, and do that. Yeah, that's something that you could do. If you wanted us to do it, we could probably do it for you. But yeah, because most definitely we don't only have that with citizens. Sometimes we have that with staff where their first language, they're more comfortable with an alternate language, and want them to be able to read it. And you're right, perhaps print it and get it in that alternate language.
Thank you. I think that would be very helpful for us. I know that your softwares provide that ability to view it in Spanish, but if there could be some hard copies printed in Spanish, that would also be very helpful.
Right.
You could do that with general code as well.
Yes, and like Colleen said, you can use the translate feature and then click print and print the entire code book if you wanted to offline, so that it's less expensive than having the bound version and the translated version possibly through the print process. But something that we could include if you needed additional information on as well.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for your questions on the council and staff. And I really appreciate you guys being here. It's been very informative. And we look forward to working with at least one of you. So thanks again. We'll be getting back to you guys fairly soon. Before our next meeting for sure, or next meeting, or within our next meeting for sure, on which way we want to go. And I thank you so much for being here to work with us.
Wonderful. If you guys think of any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to help.
Gotcha.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And definitely, reach out if you have any questions.
All right.
Being here. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. Happy New Year, and thank you for having me on the call. Reach out if you need anything.
All right. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Would you like us to drop off now, Mayor?
It's a public meeting, which means that anyone who wants to come into this meeting can come into this meeting and observe. So you are quite welcome to stay on. However, if you have other things to do, we excuse you in that manner.
I will say good evening.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. All right. So before we go on to the next thing, you guys all know we have like yes, you would like to drop off?
I would, because my network is low, my internet is unstable. So I have been like in and out this whole time. So, you like when you have unstable internet.
I know what it's like. We've all been through it at some point or another. I thank you so much for pulling everybody together and getting us all the information and documentation that we needed in order to move forward. So I think I speak for a whole council in saying we really appreciate your research and efforts.
Yes,
Okay, and
thank
if
you.
you have any other questions, just call me.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so I had a little banter there with Councilmember Mendoza but wanted to formally announce the fact that if you don't know, we have established a process. We started last month with translators to translate into English. And when you join the call, you can choose to be here in English or in Spanish. And so I'm going to ask if Chief Stone or one of the interpreters might want to let people know if they have clicked into, say, regular English, but they want to go to Spanish. Can you tell them what they need to do?
Sure, I'll start in English, and I'll probably put either one of the interpreters on the spot. But if they can switch to this side and be heard in Spanish once I'm done, that would be helpful. The interpretation is similar to going into chat. On your screen, you'll see the different buttons, and one of them is you should be able to see interpretation. And from there, you can pick either Spanish or English. If you pick Spanish, you'll hear the translator translating our conversation into Spanish. If you push English, you'll just hear our conversation. So if either interpreter could jump in and say that in Spanish, it would be helpful.
You want them to say that in Spanish on the English side.
Exactly, the Spanish on Spanish on this side, but they may not be able to. I saw Monica on here before. Maybe she could chime in.
Chief, they're doing it like right now.
They're already doing it in Spanish, Chief.
Yeah, I would say
No,
those
if I may intervene, so consider the situation when the Spanish speaker logs into this meeting. They do not know, they don't have any idea how to switch. Therefore, they need to hear it, and Chief is absolutely correct. They need to hear it in the English channel said in Spanish. So for that, only one instance, the Spanish interpreters would switch the channels, and they can absolutely do that. But we just need to pause and give them some time to do that, and they will say things in Spanish.
Gotcha, understood.
Chief, you may need to nudge them, nudge the Spanish interpreters, just to make sure they understand.
All right, well, thank you very much for that. And I hope that's helpful to everyone. I am very, very excited about this. I've been mentioning it to some of the municipalities. I honestly think we might be the first, at least in Maryland, to be doing this. And so I'm very excited to be moving forward with those kind of, with these kind of initiatives. So moving on to our next line, I believe we have some auditors on the line, Eva Webb being the head presenter. As we've had an audit, we don't normally have a presentation from the auditors, but considering we have multiple new council people online, Dan Baden, our treasurer, thought it was a good idea for someone from our audit firm to give a brief explanation of what does it mean and what is the audit telling us as a board, council, and what should be considered when looking at it. I actually have a financial background, many years in education as well as work. And so sometimes I forget what might be important to somebody else. So I thank you all for being here, and we look forward to you. You can go ahead and move forward with your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to share my screen and just very briefly walk you through the audited document itself, and then we'll talk about the letters.
Okay.
So just as a reminder, the town operates on a fiscal year end. So the audit report is for the year ended June 30, 2021. I do like to pause on the audit report and just remind everybody, management is responsible for these financial statements, and all we do as auditors is express an opinion on those financial statements. So you'll see at the top of this second page, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. So what that means is that the town of Colmar Manor received a clean audit opinion for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2021. I'm going to scroll through the management's discussion and analysis because this is sort of a summary of the information I'm going to give you. So we're going to start with Exhibit A1, and it's the statement of net position. So this is commonly referred to as a balance sheet. There are two columns. You'll see the activity for fiscal year 21 is what we're going to go over tonight, but you also have the activity for fiscal year 2020 in there so that you can compare. So about a third of the way down, we have total assets of the town, $3,866,000. This includes all of the assets. So it's our cash and cash equivalents, our investments, and the biggest chunk is our capital assets, almost $3 million. We also, of course, have liabilities. All organizations, municipalities have liabilities. We have accounts payable, accrued expenses, accrued vacation. The town also has long-term liabilities, some debt. And so our total at the end of the year was $2,110,000. The difference between our assets and our liabilities is what's known as our net position. So the net position of the town at the end of last year, $1,755,000. And you'll see comparatively it is down. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that here on Exhibit A2. Exhibit A2 is our statement of program activities. In a for-profit world, this would be our income statement. It looks a little bit different than what a lot of people are used to seeing. It starts with the expenses. Here in this column, the expenses for last year totaled $1,840,000. And it's broken out by the different functions. So we have general government, community center, public works. And then once we get past our expense column, we have program revenue and capital grants. So all municipalities get certain operating grants and capital grants each year. You also charge for particular services. And so the difference between the expenses and those revenue streams is a loss of about $1,466,000. And so what municipalities do is they levy taxes to cover those excess costs. So for last year, the town had property taxes of a little over $1 million, state shared taxes of $124,000, and then some other smaller revenue streams. Your total general revenues, $1,216,000. So you'll see here, we had a loss last year, our negative change in net position of about $250,000. So that is why at the end of the year, our net position decreased. Exhibit A3 is the same statement just for the prior year. So you can compare all of that information to the prior year. What's unique about municipalities, and quite frankly, very confusing, is that you have two sets of financial statements embedded in this one set of financial statements. So Exhibit A4 and A5 are a balance sheet and an income statement, but it excludes any long-term activity. It only includes things that are available in the short term. So it doesn't have things like capital assets or debt. So your total assets, if you exclude the capital activity, $913,000. Liabilities about $94,000. So your difference is your fund balance of about $778,000. At the bottom of Exhibit A4 is the reconciliation between the two. So as I mentioned, mostly capital assets and debt related differences. A5 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And this is what you guys are used to looking at. It's more on the budget basis. So you have revenues for fiscal year 21, 1,586,000. Expenditures, 1,729,000. So you still have a loss of 143,000 as your expenditures were more than the revenue generated. So your fund balance at the end of the year is 778,000. Exhibit A6 is just the reconciliation between the two different sets of financial statements. The next 15 pages are the notes to the financial statements. And essentially they provide information about the numbers that are on those financial statements. I'm not going to go through them in any kind of detail. We'd be here all night, but there were a couple that I just wanted to point out. You do have investments at the Maryland Local Government Investment Pool, and that balance at the end of last year was about 524,000. The long-term debt I mentioned earlier, you still have a GO bond, general obligation bond, that has a balance and monthly principal payments of about 11,000. You have a Ford truck that still has a balance, and then a copier. So the payments required for the next 5 years into the future are here on the in this nice little chart. There's also a chart here at the bottom that shows all of the current activities in debt. So you did have mostly payments on the debt made during the fiscal year. The next note that we wanted to talk about was the capital asset activity. That 2,953,000. I get a lot of questions about, well, what does that comprise? So for the most part, your municipality, the community center is the largest asset of the town, but you do have other assets, equipment, parks and playgrounds, vehicles. And so, of course, the second part down here are the accumulated depreciation amounts on those assets. Last but not least, I wanted to mention you guys did receive, and I'm sure everybody is very aware of the ARPA funding that you received. The town was awarded $1,313,000, and you received almost $657,000 in August of 2021. The last several pages, I think, are what most everybody is very familiar with. This is the budget to actual, and it shows your original budget in one column, your final budget in the second column, the actual amounts, and then the differences or the variances. So I'm going to go to the total here. Your total revenues, your budgeted amount was $1,771,000. Your actual was $1,586,000. And of course, the largest decrease for that one was the red light camera revenue right here. And of course, with a lot of people staying home, I think that really affected the amount that you were able to collect. On the expense side of things, again, all of the detail is here, but if we go down to the total, you had budgeted expenses at $1,940,000 and your actual was $1,729,000. That's a very brief overview of the financial statements. The governance letter is the second letter. This is required communication with you guys as governance, the mayor and council. That's what constitutes governance in this instance. This gives us an opportunity to communicate directly with you if we had any difficulties, if there were any changes. We didn't have any material adjustments that were made. I always like to point that out. That's important for you guys to know, because when you're looking at monthly internal financial statements generated from the accounting department, that generally means you can rely on them. It also gives us an opportunity to let you know if there are any other upcoming accounting pronouncements. There's nothing significant on the horizon for your town currently that would need to be implemented next year. The last letter is the I love the name of it, the deficiency letter. We don't get to tell you the 99 things you do right. We just get to point out the one or two that you're not quite getting right. We have what's known as a trip across standard when it comes to deficiencies. So if we come across them, we're required to communicate them to you. So there's just a couple of things I think that we're recommending you take a look at. The policy for collecting personal property taxes is one of them. And I believe, Mayor, we spoke about it when I was on site. The town currently does not have a written policy regarding the procedures for collecting these taxes. And what we mean when we say that is there's no formal outline of when notices should be mailed, what the consequences are for non-payment, when collections will take place. There are balances on the personal property tax schedule that go back to 2005. We at this point don't believe that those are collectible. So we recommend that you investigate whether or not the amounts on the schedule are collectible, and then create a policy for the future in determining when they should be written off. We also recommend taking a quick look at the bank reconciliation. There are a few checks that are very old that are sitting out there that are about $12,000. So we want those investigated to determine if stop payment notices should be processed or if they need to go to the state. And finally, this year, PayPal has become, you guys now have a PayPal account. And it's important that we remember that the PayPal account was established to facilitate the receipt of payments for tickets and fines. But we also noticed that there were some vendor payments running through it. And these payments do not follow the current established policies and procedures for disbursements. So at the current level, it's not material to the financial statements overall. But in general, once we start using something like PayPal, we've found in other clients, it's got a snowball effect that generally it does become material pretty quickly. So we're just recommending that you establish a policy for how vendor payments are initiated and authorized through PayPal. I will now take questions.
Do we accept payments by credit card?
PayPal.
Do we accept payments to the town via credit card? Do we have that capability?
We do not.
Is there a reason?
Generally speaking, sorry, Dan, but usually it's
sorry,
because
we
of
do
fees.
through PayPal.
I understand. I'm asking if we accept credit cards.
Yes, through PayPal.
Through PayPal. Okay.
Yes. That is literally the reason why we established PayPal, was so that we would be able to accept credit cards. I'm sorry, I was on mute while I was fussing. Like, don't y'all hear me?
It happens to all of us.
Okay, so with that question, I'll go ahead and open up to anyone else who has any questions. You can probably stop sharing your screen. I mean, unless someone wants to see a specific page.
I think you should start with Councilmember Mendoza.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Switch it up.
Yes, we'll go the other way and see what happens. Councilmember Mendoza, you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Miss Eva Webb, for joining us this evening.
Very
Yeah,
well.
Thank you. Look at Doug. He's like, wait, what's going on here?
Nothing confuses me at this point except the mirror.
Yeah, Councilmember Mendoza, you also had the benefit of seeing these financials for several years in a row to see what they look like. All right, Ward 3, Councilmember Bowles.
I'm good for the moment. Thank you.
Oh, okay, wow. Thank you. Councilmember Hobbs.
I don't have any questions at the moment either. Thank you.
Okay, and Councilmember Harding.
I have no questions either. I appreciate Ms. Eva Webb's coming on tonight and giving us this presentation. Though I do not recall meeting you last year. Did I miss that personally?
No, so this is the first time, and I want to thank you all for having me. We've been doing the audit for several years, and this is the first time I've done the presentation to the group.
Thank you. It's
I'm
very
highly
helpful.
honored.
That's very good. Yeah, well, and that was by the, recommendation of Treasurer Baden. So Eva, I also want to thank you. I want to assure you, as your letter is recommended, that we have we've started a review of the count of the property tax receivables in our last meeting, and so Mr. Baden is drafting up some recommendations in looking into which ones may be payable and which ones we may need just simply write off. And so we're in the process of doing that. We'll quickly be having a conversation with about the PayPal, just so that you guys understand, because you can't see it. The items that are showing up on PayPal pretty much just 99 cents, Mr. Baden, a month?
There was a
Yeah.
total, a lot of them were 99 cents. There was a total of about $160, I believe, for the year. So there were a couple other smaller purchases done through, I believe it was Amazon.
No, there was no Amazon purchases at all. So what they are exactly was, we had a band during Juneteenth who expected to be paid right away. And so we paid them through PayPal. That was, and then there's the 99 cents. 99 cents is the charge for the storage monthly on my phone. So it's 99 cents on the phone. And then I purchased a business card, a business card scanner to scan all these business cards I'm receiving all the time into my phone, which has an annual. Those are the three items, or the three vendors that have been affected by that. But we'll have some more conversation on how we can do that. I hadn't paid close attention to the reconciliation. Can I suggest maybe Mr. Baden, that we can actually get a copy of the bank reconciliation as well in our treasurer packages, because then we can all stay on top of that, and if that could be the process that we actually see that reconciliation. And then we
The
all
bank
have
rec
access.
for the PayPal account?
No, the bank reconciliation that's mentioned in the deficiency letter.
Well, I tell you what the main item on there is. It's about a $9,000 check we wrote to Pepco, which was a reissuance of a check they didn't cash before. So this is the second check we've issued them for the same amount, and it was for an overpayment of their personal property tax. It wasn't an overpayment, it was a duplicate payment of their property taxes from, now it's probably 5 or 6 years ago. So it was outstanding after a number of years. We reissued it, or I reissued it, voided the original check, and they still haven't cashed the new check. So we could, void it again and reissue it, and hopefully they'll cash it again. But that's the largest portion of the 12, and I don't remember what the other amounts are, but I'll be more than happy to provide that, at the next meeting or before then, for you all to look at. And like Eva said, we could void them out and reissue it. I have no problem in doing that. I've done it once with the largest amount and still outstanding, so we could do it again or find another way to pay them, I guess.
Okay, easy to resolve, right? But, just so that we all can stay on top of it, it's not something that any of us would be able to see is remaining outstanding for a period of time. So without seeing the reconciliation, we're kind of out of the loop in knowing that happened, that's sitting there. So it's just easy way to make sure we all have eyeballs on what's going on all the time.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else before we allow Ms. Eva to go? Any questions? All right, well, thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you for coming out. We really do appreciate it. And we'll probably consider, after audit presentations in the future. I think it's very helpful to everyone to hear it outside of the house, independent.
Great. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
All right, you have a great
Thank
evening as
you.
well.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, so moving on. So report on the work session. All right, so on the work session, which was held Tuesday, January the 4th, we had a conversation about buying COVID testing kit purchases. We made a decision to buy a minor amount to ensure the continuity of government. We discussed how badly we got hit in the holiday season. It was literally imperative that we actually had test kits available for our staff and council so that we could very quickly have folks isolate who had become ill. And it was, we've gone 19 months without having any cases whatsoever. And we had many very quickly. And so we know that to maintain a proper staff and to stop the spread, we needed to have some available. So we made a decision to buy some, but not nearly as what would be needed with the community. This didn't happen last week, but because I'm saying it right now, and I'll go ahead and mention something I wanted to mention. If you go out on our Facebook page, our website, and you would have gotten a text today as well as an email, if you're on our list, that the county is giving out home test kits at several locations, which are included in the email and on our Facebook page tomorrow and Thursday. So it's very important if you want to at least have those in your house, even if you're not in a situation at this point. And this is going to continue to. So we're also looking to find ways that we actually can get more kits from the state and the county. And I had this conversation with state officials last week about them sort of spreading out some of these test kits instead of having them harbored into one location where people are wrapped around the block. But that's going to continue to be a thing. So we'll keep you informed as to what we see going on out there. We had a conversation about accounts receivable aging summary, which was a part of what we just had the auditor to just speak about. Some items that have been there and how we can go about a new policy on moving that forward. We talked about ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act funds, and went over a consulting agreement to, I believe we voted on moving forward with a consulting agreement to have someone come in, start helping us gather the information we need to make decisions on how best we would spend this money that best serves the residents of the town of Colmar Manor. And so hopefully we'll get that agreement up and running, have some preliminary meetings before the end of this month. So we have an idea of how we're actually going to move forward. Then we also had a conversation about Green Street with Ms. Goodall for a grant with the Chesapeake Bay Trust about providing some improvements to our Green Street for a grant that's due in March. And so we've sort of tabled it. And I've asked everyone to think about if we can only do a part of the Green Street, because only $30,000, this is for engineering. I think only $30,000 or $40,000 is available for the engineering, which would not get it all done. If we don't match it with some town funds. And everyone felt that we needed to continue to talk about how we would be spending ARPA before making a decision to spend some on with this grant match. So that concludes the work session. Does anybody remember something differently than I've just reported? All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda is our council reports. I will start with Ward 4 again. Now you got me on the hook. We'll go back and forth.
Well, I thank you, Mayor. Thanks everyone for tuning in this evening. I don't really have a lot to say, but I just wanted to make sure everybody is safe during these times where this virus is going around and it is very contagious. So everybody just be safe out there and watch out for one another. And that's pretty much it. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you so much. Ward 3, Councilmember Bowles.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. It's good to see you all. Last I think we saw each other was before Christmas. Just wanted to say thanks to everybody who participated in the town holiday celebrations and to the folks at CHOP and the delegates office that distributed toys here at Town Hall. It was a great time and it was wonderful to be able to be to use the financial folks term immaterial part of the influence in a good way of the life of Colmar Manor. So just wanted to say a few things, short things. A special thanks out to my neighbors, my new neighbors, Keith and Leslie, who are proving to be very involved in town. And thanks to Keith and his son, Mehdi, for doing some cleanup in Ward 3 when we had some trash accumulation. It was really appreciated. And also thanks to Leslie, who's going to be leading some animal workshops here in town, and we're working on scheduling those now. And there's going to be great opportunities for citizens in the town to learn some basic animal handling tips, as well as some important facts to understand about how to maintain control of your animal, maintain its health, and some basic training ideas. I also like to thank a new member of my ward, Sarah, who just moved into the lower ward, the 3400 block of 41st Avenue. Had a wonderful interaction with her and her partner. We're excited to have you, and we're excited that you're excited to be here. Some areas which are some areas of town during the freezing temperatures are also starting to present themselves as water issues again. We're having some ice damming on sidewalks where folks are venting their sump pumps and their downspouts directly onto the sidewalk. Just be mindful. And if you have the ability to go out and salt or shorten those pipes, ideally would be great. Just a reminder also to bag your poop and clean it up. We're still having some issues with that. So please make sure that you take advantage of one of the 13, I think, poop stations that the town has provided for you. They are fully bagged at all times for the most part these days. So there's always something within close reach for you to pick up after your animals. You'll be hearing from me soon. I'm be sending the board a letter soon, so look out for that. And also just wanted to give you the heads up from Senator Augustine's office at the county's vaccine clinic, and this may be a redundancy, but has been moved to the Wayne Curry Sports and Learning Complex, which is on Sheriff Road in Landover. And you can get vaccinated there on Mondays and Wednesdays from 9 to 8, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 9 to 4:30, and Saturday 10 to 4. So pretty much all week. And be looking out for the test kits that are going to be coming from the federal government, the county. Hopefully within the next few weeks, we're going to be seeing it will become difficult not to find a testing kit. That's the goal. So be safe, be well, and thank you all for your involvement in town and for being so supportive of me. Reach out anytime. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Bowles. Moving on to Councilmember Hobbs.
Thank you. Forgot to unmute my microphone. Good evening, everybody. Just a few announcements to start with. I wanted to say that the Brentwood Business Network and the Town of Colmar Manor networking event / happy hour was postponed to March 22nd due to the rising cases in coronavirus. So hopefully in the spring, we'll be able to host an in-person event, which is right now on the calendars for March 22nd. So please put it, save the date for that event, especially those people, those businesses, those contractors who are in town. I also would like to remind residents to pick droopings after their pets, not just the outside when you're on a walk, but also in their yards. If unpicked, the droppings and the poop, it present a health hazard. And also would like to remind residents to take care of their pets, especially during the cold days that are tonight ahead of us. And if your pet is outside, please make sure that you provide an elevated shelter for them, and the shelter is without draft. Also, I would like to congratulate our town and specifically Councilperson Bowles and the rec team on the successful execution of the Christmas Caroling event that took place on December 18th. The Colmar Manor community had an opportunity to enjoy the Christmas carols from around the world performed by marvelous, and also had an opportunity to sing along. As we know, any project, big or small, requires meticulous planning, rehearsing, and then the execution part. And that program was a joy. So thank you again to the rec team and Councilperson Bowles. This will be the conclusion of my Ward 2 report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Council Member Harding, Ward 1.
Hi, everyone. I'd first like to start by saying thank you to our translators. I know that we talk very fast, so I'm sure this has been very difficult. And I haven't heard a gap for them to translate at all. So shout out to them. First, I want to apologize that I don't have much to report. I've been quarantining myself for the past 2 weeks. COVID has scared me into a hole. But I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. Shout out to Ward 1 and the rest of the wards just for getting through these difficult times. I know this surprise winter mix that we just had this week was a very challenging and difficult situation. But when I looked out my window and I saw people cleaning their sidewalks, cleaning the driveways, and just making this a walkable area to get through, it made me feel really good personally, because I understand, one, that's a part of community, to making sure that your neighbor is okay. But two, we never know what anyone's going through. So that help goes a long way. And I know that for my elderly neighbors, them looking out their window and seeing the younger people cleaning up for them, that probably warmed their heart a lot. So thank you guys for that. I really appreciate that. In regards to what Councilmember Bowles just said, as far as the hazards as water places, our stormwater management, definitely be mindful of that. I've experienced it myself from going outside and slipping, and I don't want that for anybody. I slipped pretty hard to hurt my hip, and now I'm back into a quarantine in my house just for hip. But beyond that, I just want to wish us a Happy New Year and really just push forward with the positivity and a new mindset that we've gotten through last year. Now we have to overcome this one and develop our town and community to the way that we want to see it.
Right. Hey. Thank you so much, Councilmember Harding. Moving on, Mayor's report. I want to report out. I'm very happy to say that we finally did have a vaccination clinic here at the town hall, where I forget how many, Chief Stone, you remember how many people we had come through for the boosters?
41, I believe it was.
41, which they tell us is a pretty high number for a couple hour vaccine. I am trying to get them to come back again. The time of day, which was in the early evening, is a time that a lot of people don't have an opportunity to. And I was very happy to see workers from the shopping center and so forth come up and get their shots and their boosters. So we look forward to doing some more of that. We have hired a code enforcement officer If you have been in the meeting last month, you may have heard us go through and talk, Mr. Reading, Reading.
Ready.
Reading.
Mr. Reading. I swore Mr. Reading in on Friday. So this Friday just passed. So he has officially started work today. One of the things that we talked about having done in the early stages is establishing online form that people can go online and enter in a grievance or concern that they may have by name or anonymously, so that we can start having a clear paper trail of all of the activities that are reported and what the status of those things are right online, that can be available for the mayor and the council to actually see, so that we can communicate with neighbors when a status of a situation when it's taking place. So I'm looking forward to, very excited about this going forward. I'm sure many of you guys experienced an outage of your internet a couple of weeks ago. And if you didn't know or didn't find out, basically there was a truck that pulled down a pole in Bladensburg that impacted our internet as well as some other towns. Interesting enough, there's a bill that I saw from Delegate Fennell, HB 626, related to tall vehicles coming through municipal areas. And I thought, oh my God, that's sort of crazy that that just happened and now this just happened. So if anybody is interested in participating or being involved in what's going on there, please contact me and let me know. And I will try to get hooked up with the delegation to discuss what happened and what those standards are. And I'm hoping that we'll hear a little bit more. Maybe Bladensburg has a little bit more about what happened, because I've never experienced anything like that before. I also want to speak about the snow. We really faced a challenge, and a lot of folks don't really know that. We were in a situation of having like no public works at all. And I want to say that we're very fortunate that Michael Gorham came here day early on Sunday, where he normally comes in on Tuesday, in order to be available, just to find out that the truck lifts and whatever you call them weren't working. And one truck and another truck, one had it on there would work, but the other one wouldn't work or whatever. And we got help from other towns that came over, helped to fix it, get it going. And as you all know, by the end of that Monday, Mr. Gorham, by his lonesome, had gone through and really cleared up the streets very, very well. And I want to really reiterate what Councilmember Harding said. I was in the next day just driving around to assess everything. I was really heartfelt about the sidewalks and how clear those sidewalks they were. I mean, they were clear in front of houses where nobody lives, you know, which means that someone else on that block, you know, wanted that continuous availability or walkability to exist for whomever needed to walk and cleared it out. So that's where the heart of people are, you know, when you see people get up and go out and do that and make sure that everybody is covered. So I thank you all for your participation in that. I also want to thank the Recreation Council and Councilmember Bowles for our Christmas event. It was beautiful and still difficult to figure out what the best things are to do, but we did it so that we can, you know, say, you know, so you're not going to defeat us, COVID, to the point that we're just not going to get things done that we want to get done. So other than that, I just really want to say I'm very excited about the Spanish translations that we're doing. The new board that's up, you guys should notice that our new board has also translations on the big public board behind the shopping center, so that we're trying to do all the little pieces that we can in order to improve our communications, and we'll continue to do so. Okay, I think that's it for me for right now. Oh yeah, also, yeah, please definitely pulling your poll. I also want to mention to the council, because we had this conversation about the Green Street and whether and how important it would be to people in town if we were using funds on the Green Street. But the intersection of Newton Street and 43rd, the intersection of Newark Road and 43rd right now, where it rained and then froze and iced over, where you have to get out into the street and walk around this frozen section. I think people would pretty much really appreciate that, because it's, you know, it's going to be a while before it melts, and then it's still, when it's water, you can't walk it. But if we, you know, if you walk around there, I think that it's problematic enough that we want to try to consider trying to do something about it. And it's also at Newton Street and 43rd as well. And I'm sure there's other areas too. It's just that I'm looking at that one on a pretty regular basis. So anyway, that's my report. And thank you all for listening. Appreciate it. So moving on, I'm going to move on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Bailey.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. Let's see if I could pull up. There we go. So you have in front of you, or hopefully you can see it on the screen, the December Treasurer's Report, which covers the first 6 months of the current fiscal year through December 31st. On the revenue side, you can see total, whoops, hold on one sec. Total revenues starting out with real property tax of $674,000. That is the largest revenue source that we have. Down landfill rebate, we've collected $1,742. That's half of the budget, which covers the first 2 quarters. We received quarterly payments on that. Police grants, state aid, $10,819. We received our second quarter disbursements on the police aid grant. So total budget, was $21,638. Most of the other items you could see there. Last month, the question was asked about miscellaneous income, and that amount was showing as a higher amount last month. It was showing at $1,353, and I believe Council Member Bowles had asked what that was. There was a misclassification of a refund from the health insurance company. So I removed it from there so that the only thing showing in there now is $60. And that's related to payment for some personal copies made at the town hall. So that is the only revenue source in miscellaneous income at this point. At the bottom of the page, you can see the allocation of the American Rescue Plan funds. Total received so far is $656,837. And we're currently allocated amongst 3 different allocations. Total revenue, as summarized above, was $1,502,000. Moving into the expense side, we have general government expenditures. You can see all the different accounts we keep track of and the associated expenditure amounts. The total general government expenditures were $180,688. We had payroll taxes and benefits of $45,793. Senior van costs of $20,977. As I've reported over the last couple months, or really so far this year, we show nothing in code enforcement, and the reason for that is Cottage City pays the expenses associated with code enforcement and bills us, and they've not sent out any billings at this point. It's my understanding that they were short a treasurer, and we will be getting those billings sometime soon. Not sure when that is. Under Public Works, You see the different expenditure accounts. Total 131,634. Question was asked last meeting about this vehicle maintenance figure of $3,214 and how it was close to the budget amount. I had stated that there were, unexpected repairs to one of the public works vehicles, and I was asked what that was. So there was $957 to replace all 4 tires. And then there were 3 other service tickets on that vehicle. It had trouble starting and staying running and had to go back to the shop 3 times at a cost of $1,879. And then we also had to have a battery put in one of our other vehicles at a cost of $185. So that accounts for $3,025 of that cost. Moving on to community center and town hall, largest item here is our debt service on the loan. You heard the auditors talk about, larger loan that we have outstanding. This was for bond to borrow to build the current town hall back in 2010. It was refinanced in 2013 and then actually refinanced again this year. So these are the costs to date. The other costs for maintaining the town hall, mainly utility costs and those types of items, total of $135,483. Within this account, you see insurance, which is $579 over budget. And under the public safety, there's an insurance account that was $1,257 over budget. Again, at the last meeting, question was answered. Well, why are those over budget? We do pay for those at the beginning of the year, so that is the full cost for the year. And looking back at it, the reason for the increase is that we did not get the renewal rates until June, which was late in the year, and the reinsurance, that our insurance company, which is the local government insurance trust, uses, more than doubled their reinsurance costs due to a lot of claims on vehicles, especially within the police department. So, a lot of auto claims, and therefore the rates have gone up. Legit has said that they anticipate on having their reinsurance rates in by April this year, so that they will be able to account for those in the next renewal instead of being a surprise later in the year. Total public safety expenditures, were $172,000. Community center operations, $9,352. Question was asked at the last meeting about the recreation supplies of $771. What got classified into here were the school supplies we purchased to put into the book bags for the new school year. That was $413. And then we did have purchased a dumbbell rack for the fitness room of $85 and some other miscellaneous costs. So, the question was, why do we incur $771 when the building's, technically closed? So it's mainly related to those school supplies. Total expenses, $699,405. Taken from the income I gave you earlier, we're showing a net income of $802,000 for the 6 months, but the majority of that is related to the money we received from the American Rescue Plan that I had talked about earlier. The last page is the balance sheet. Biggest item to point out here is the MLGIP investment account. This is the basically savings account that we keep surplus funds in, $101,444,000. And the other cash balances are kept in 3 other accounts, total of 121,000. We have some other small current assets and then some other smaller current liabilities. So that's really the highlight for the balance sheet account. And that's my summary of the report for the month. Try to answer any questions if anyone has any. And you're muted, Mayor, if you can't tell if you're talking or not, but.
Yeah, I was, I was talking. Thank you very much for your report. Couple of questions. Not too much, but get this done. One thing I noticed is that on 5,500, the amount is close to what it should be when the general government has been reduced significantly. So, I ask this question all the time about when payroll taxes don't match what payroll is. I know there's something else going in that might have been different. So I think you might have said last month that it was the picker who went in, but it just doesn't seem like we had that person long enough, the trash picker long enough to do that. Anyway, to that point, I would just like to ask for that to be looked at. What might be going on.
Are you looking at account 5510?
No, I was looking at 5550.
Yes, it is the difference because the trash picker salary is in 2 different accounts, or is in 1 account, and the public works salary. So, but the payroll taxes are associated for both of them. So you would need to add 5770 and 5772 salary accounts together. And then it should, be in line with the payroll tax.
I see. Okay. All right. So a question around the debt service, not the number that's here necessarily, but just whether or not we when can we expect to pay the lower amount from the borrowing, a new borrowing that we did?
Yep, the bonds went to issue the end of November, and instead of monthly payments, we pay semi-annual now. So there will be one payment, I believe it's in April or May. I'd have to look at the payment schedule. And so it will be twice a year instead of monthly, which is what the payment schedule was on the old bond.
So then that means that we won't be making another payment until when?
I believe it's either April or May.
I see. Okay. But we're all in? I mean, we're done?
Yep. I could bring the details of where that borrowing ended up. It was actually a very favorable borrowing, and the rates were just under 2%. And the bond sold at a premium, which means the market paid more than what the face value of the bonds were. So we were able to pay the issuance cost and still get the full $2 million or $1,903,000 to use to pay off the existing loan. So, it was, again, a very favorable borrowing as far as, the market and the rate that we achieved.
Okay, all right, that's great news, So yeah, if you could, if you have like a summary you could provide to myself and the council on where we landed monthly, payment wise, whatever period of time that payment is for, as well as the rate and everything, that would be great just to see it in paper somewhere. Thank you for your work on that. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Barr, for your work. I know he's not online right now, but yeah, I appreciate that. So coming back to these supplies, okay. You said, so there was a purchase of the backpacks, $413. And then you said something about a dumbbell rack. What was that amount?
I think that was $85.
Oh, $85.
Yep.
I'm curious about why, do you have any idea where'd that come from? Why do we buy a dumbbell rack?
I don't know. I assume, the rec, whoever was handling the rec purchases deemed we needed one. I don't know.
All right, we need to follow up on that. And I'm glad that you took a look at what that is, but we do need to follow up on that. I can't think of why we needed a dumbbell rack right now. In the middle of this.
I have an idea of why the dumbbell rack was purchased, because I was there at the town hall at the time. It was because the dumbbells, it was just a lot at the time, just on the floor. So we needed the rack to just hold them up. It's like it's like a little formation, like a. So it just kept them off the floor.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, no problem. It's not a big deal at all. It's just, trying to figure out in the middle of a pandemic when we're not letting anybody even go down there and use them, why we were doing that. But I would still, if I could get a schedule of what's in there so that I just have an understanding of how that account is being used. I appreciate it, Mr. Baden. I don't have any other questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Baden, is there an inventory?
Not a detailed up-to-date one now.
So I can answer the question, Councilmember Bowles. When Yolanda was here, we established an inventory for Public Works. And she did this every quarter to update what it was. But since she's been gone, we haven't had an opportunity to backfill that work. So it was never done. It is something that was established since I've been here. And once I got somebody to do that, we had a process going before COVID. And so just before COVID, I'm going to tell you, yes, we had an inventory. Since COVID, no.
And so things are tagged, are they barcoded, or what's our system?
No, we didn't have any formal situation such as that. It was basically just going around and doing a list. And so what I did was Yolanda became the purchaser and overseer of the inventory so that it was consolidated. So Public Works weren't purchasing for themselves anymore. Everything was going through a source that was keeping record of what got purchased. So she had a record of what got purchased. And so when it was time to inventory again, you can determine how much of what got used and how much do we need of things. So that instead of just randomly making purchases because it's like, oh, I think we need this, things might be hiding in a closet somewhere and we still got it. So you have to make it make sense that something is gone from the inventory. So pretty much a spreadsheet inventory, but not with the fancy, an inventory system or anything like that.
So if we throw something away, that's noted somewhere? Or if
it was,
but it's not anymore. Okay. And then I have a question. I don't know if I asked my question correctly before. I was asking if someone wants to come, say, pay for their classes or rent the town hall, can they charge that to their personal credit card? Do we accept personal credit card payments to the town, or are we saying that we only accept payments through PayPal? I was confused.
So the two go together. We accept a personal credit card from a person.
Okay.
So what we do is we go on a PayPal and we send an invoice to that person's email address. And then that person enters their credit card information on their device and we're paid. The money is just simply coming in through PayPal.
And so do we do that because that saves us having to pay credit card fees, or?
There is still a fee paid through PayPal, but it is significantly different than what we would have had to do if we had to get a telephone line, a separate telephone line for the credit card, and then we would also have the merchant fee. So we would have been paying a telephone bill and a merchant fee, and those merchant fees can be higher than PayPal, so it
Right.
actually can be more convenient.
And persons utilizing that are assessed a fee to use their credit card. So the fee, the PayPal fee is paid by the user, not the town.
Right. Okay, thank you. That clarified it. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody have any other questions, Mr. Baden? Okay.
Just,
Go ahead, sorry, Marilyn.
I don't have, oh, no. Go ahead, Doug. Go ahead.
No, please, I'll ask the chief my question because it's about the chief.
Oh, okay. No, mine isn't, it's not really a question. I just wanted to, of course, two things. Thank you, Dan, for Treasurer's Report and being very thorough with it once again. But I gotta
You're
tell
welcome.
you, I listened to you and Mayor going back and forth in Spanish. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's all I gotta say.
Melinda, I've never seen you like this. You're in heaven.
I am. I'm gonna learn Spanish tonight. I've just been pressing this button like it's no thing.
I know, it's very cool. I've been pushing over to Spanish just for a little bit, just to hear, just to observe what that feels like. And it's very cool. Any other questions? Okay, so I will ask if there's a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Councilmember Hobbs makes that motion stated.
A second.
I'll second that motion. Councilmember Bowles.
I'll call for a vote. Ward 1. Oh, is there any further discussion? Okay, Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Okay, thank you, Mr. Baden. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to our police report. We've got Chief Stone.
All right. Good evening, everyone. And where I'm going to find my police report and try to share it. Right here. All right. Good evening again. And for the police report for December of 2021, there were 77 calls for service or officer initiated events during the month. That resulted in 7 police reports. I'll mention those quickly. We had an assault at the IHOP, and that involved 2 employees. One had minor injuries. The one that left the scene prior to police getting there, and the officer advised warrants. We had a stolen vehicle in the 3400 block of 41st Avenue. Police report was taken, and then it was determined that prior to the report being taken, the vehicle was involved in a hit and run accident, and the driver fled. That occurred the day before in College Park, and the keys were missing in that incident, so the keys were apparently used. 4300 block of Newark Road had a fraud reported. Resident advised of numerous unauthorized transactions on their online bank account. In the 3400 block of 40th Place, a bicycle was reported stolen. That occurred during the day. The person left the bicycle in the driveway for a few moments, and it was stolen. A missing person from the 3400 block of 39th Avenue. That was a juvenile who has since returned. 3400 block of 43rd Avenue, headphones were reported stolen from a car. And lastly, on the 23rd, we had a burglar reported at America's Best Wings, Port Town Shopping Center. And that occurred about 2:40 in the morning. Just incidentally, at about that same time period, 4 similar burglaries were reported in Landover Hills. We only had 1 in Colmar Manor that evening. 3 traffic accidents during the month, which required accident reports. First on the 8th in the Port Town Shopping Center, a person had a medical emergency. And it was minor, I'd say no injuries and minor damage, but actually it was very lucky that during the medical emergency, they accelerated pretty fast, and they have some pretty sturdy handicap poles up there, and it stopped the vehicle from going into one of the stores, but ended up being kind of fortunate. 3-vehicle accident reported 3400 block of 37th Avenue, no injuries. And a very minor hit and run in the drive-through of the McDonald's reported on Christmas Day. For traffic enforcement, we had 8 traffic stops with 32 violation notices written. For neighborhood watch, generally neighborhood watch meets on the 4th Thursday of the month. We did not have one in November and December due to the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, but are planning one for January 20th. Not sure how it will be held, maybe virtually, but we'll advertise that as soon as that decision's made. For animal complaints, Prince George's County Animal Control, I'd say, handles most of the complaints or for the town of Colmar Manor. However, we do try to handle some of those when we can. On the 9th, we had a complaint of a dog barking continuously in the 3400 block of 42nd Avenue. The dog was located, spoke with the owner and sent them a notice. Have not received a follow-up complaint on that, so I believe that has been resolved. On the 14th, we had a complaint of a dog walker allowing 2 dogs to run off lead in the Newton Street Park. Made contact with them outside of the park, and when that occurred, they were on lead. They were advised regarding allowing them to run free. As the mayor mentioned, Mr. Charles Redding was brought on board as our code enforcement officer recently. He came on during the holidays and the snow. It was a little difficult, a little choppy the first week or two, but he's full speed ahead now as he gets kind of acclimated with both communities, because he does work in Cottage City and Colmar Manor. He was sworn in last week and getting familiar with our codes, and you should see him out there in the very near future. One code issue during the month of December prior to him coming on board was at the Port Town Shopping Center. Had an unusual issue behind the IHOP of just about every dumpster. There's five or six of them back there. All of them were overflowing. Don't know what led to that, because it's all different businesses, all different trash companies, but none were getting picked up for about a week. Contacted management, and that has been corrected. I have a listing of our trash days in the report. On the last page of the report, have a comparison of our police calls from 2020 compared to 2021. And the calls on here, or the reports on here, are those that are part 1 UCR offenses. Those are your assaults, burglaries, robberies, reports of that nature. We had 70 in 2020 and just about the same, 71 in 2021. I'll touch upon those very briefly. And going through these, I'm going to differentiate a little bit between the commercial areas and the residential area. Residential areas where we all live, we have our homes, we have our kids, we spend most of our time there. Commercial, we visit there occasionally, but kind of more important and dear to our hearts is the residential area. There was 3 assaults during the year that required police reports. All 3 of those occurred in the commercial areas, none in the residential area. One of those was where a subject struck one of our police officers in the head with a brick. Officer did require medical attention, but it was not hospitalized. That case comes up in February for trial. The other 2 are related to shopliftings at in the shopping centers, where the suspect assaulted the employee on their way out the door. We have 10 breaking and enterings reported. 9 of the 10 occurred in the commercial areas, and the 10th one, although in the residential area, is technically a breaking and entering, but more of a theft. It's property was stolen from a home. Somebody came in unauthorized, but the the owner is pretty sure who took it, and it seemed to be an acquaintance. So all of our burglaries occurring in the commercial areas. We had one reported carjacking, Newark Road, 4300 block, but it was not a carjacking. It did not, A, wasn't a carjacking, and B, didn't occur where it was initially reported, but it does still show up in our statistics. We did have one homicide during the year. That was in July on Lawrence Street. That was domestic related, husband and wife. And this, incidentally, one of our officers was working when that occurred and detained the suspect without incident. And that person is pending trial. We had motor vehicle thefts. We had 8. 5 of the 8, which is way up from the year before, by the way. 5 of the 8 were in the commercial areas, and 6 of those had the keys. I'm sorry. Yeah, 6 of them had the keys either with the vehicle or they couldn't locate the keys once it was stolen. So the keys were involved in that. And you'll see it reported everywhere. They're just called jump ins. The 7-Elevens, the convenience stores, the laundromat here. People go in and they're going to come out with their laundry, leave the car running for a minute, and it is gone quickly. We had 1 reported robbery. That was actually an attempt robbery at the CVS. That was part of a chain of robberies throughout the county, and they have made an arrest and identified a suspect in that. I don't know that he's been specifically charged with our CVS, but the suspect was identified in that. And I'll hit thefts for a moment. Thefts are a little bit more complicated. On the report, they're divided into the type of thefts: bicycles, theft from vehicles, theft from buildings. Total number of thefts were 47. And of the 47, 32, or about 70%, occurred in the shopping center. And that's the theft from autos around the IHOP, the CVS, where folks are leaving things in plain view and people are taking advantage of that and smashing windows and running off with items. So of all those, there's 71 incidents in the report, and 50 of them, or 70%, occurred in the commercial areas. I think it's worth noting that in the residential area, there's no robberies, no real burglaries. So hopefully people can feel safe in the residential area. Moving on for some other additional calls during the year, there were 62 calls for traffic accidents in Colmar Manor and 28 required police reports. Our officers made 156 traffic stops, issued 414 violation notices. There were 9 arrests during the year, 6 on-view arrests. An on-view arrest is like a shoplifting. You go there and you actually, it's kind of like a hands-on arrest. There's 2 warrant services and 1 criminal citation issued. There were 137 parking citations issued in the town and 80 warning notices. I think that's the end of my report. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Chief Stone. Appreciate it. I have a quick question. Traffic accidents, do you have a record of how many of these? There's a lot of accidents for a little teeny town. Do you have a record of how many of these are like on Bladensburg Road as opposed to in the town?
I can probably figure that out. The way that they, for this report, it just goes in the town, but I could and I will see if I can figure out the Bladensburg Road as opposed to in the town. Probably most of them are on Bladensburg Road or some relation to Bladensburg Road.
Okay, and then, well, I guess it'd be in 1 month, 28, it's like an accident a day. I mean, well, that's just the ones that required an accident report. You had 62 calls for service for a traffic accident.
Yeah, that's for the year.
Oh, this is for the year.
Yeah, for
Oh,
the year, at
okay,
the end of
all
the
right,
next-
okay.
that's the
I
year. Yep,
I forgot we weren't looking at the month
Yeah.
again, that we're looking at the year. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
for-
So
for
now
the
this
month,
next number.
much smaller numbers.
All
Yeah,
right,
no,
yeah, the numbers don't scare me so much now.
yeah.
Okay, very good. Anyone else have any other questions for Chief Stone? Councilmember Bowl?
Yes,
believe you-
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Chief, I wanted to let you know, we had some, I would describe them as dangerously large fireworks in Ward 3 the last week of December. One in particular instance was frightening. It wasn't just annoying, it was frightening. So I don't know if our police have taken note of that, but we had quite a bit of that going on, but this was one of the loudest things I've ever heard in the way of a firework in a personal home. It sounded like it was something that they should be shooting off at the Bladensburg waterfront under professional supervision. And then I believe we also had some other things going on as well, but I wanted to make sure that you are aware that it was, I didn't report it to you that evening, but it was quite dangerous. What's going on with our new police car? When will we see it?
I checked on it and they said the production is scheduled for February, last I checked. I'm thinking of March at the earliest for that.
Okay, got you. How's hiring going?
It's going. I have interviews this week, so that's I have a few interviews this week. So hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have someone identified as a good candidate.
Fantastic. And that, is that including the part-time position as well, or are we
Yes.
focusing? Okay,
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. If we have something like the situation with Miss Williams, where she's across from a commercial area, but that commercial area is making her feel unsafe in her home, do we consider that an event in the commercial district, or do we consider that an event in the residential area?
In the commercial, I'd consider that as commercial.
Okay, even though it's directly affecting
It's-
someone.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and let's see. I think that's all I've got for you right now. I'll leave the rest alone. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry, the disorderly, I had marked that. 7 disorderlies. What can you describe what's going on there?
I can look them up for you individually. Most of the time it is for somebody, say, in a restaurant, refusing to leave, standing out front, bothering customers. That's usually the content of the call, but I'll look at them and get back with you on that.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
All right, anybody else? Any other questions for the chief? Well, Chief, I want
Mayor,
to thank you. Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, go ahead, Mayor, go ahead.
You go. I was just going to say, I wanted to thank you particularly for stepping up because I guess we wind up with nobody in the police department for a multitude of issues. And so you had to get out there on the patrol and sort of stand up for that. So I want to appreciate you doing your job and stepping in where things became necessary.
You're welcome, and hopefully things will get back to normal shortly.
Yes, please. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Mendoza.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wanted to echo what Mayor said about the other day. It was Happy Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. So I just wanted to say thank you, Chief. I know these past couple of weeks have been little hard for you. So we're thankful for you and Officer Chavez and Sarge, and especially to Sarge, get well soon.
All right, thank you, and I will pass that on to them.
And I'm happy to say Mr. Wells is happily back.
Yes.
Right.
He's very happy to be back. You should see him. He's elated.
He's been beating at the door to get back in, and he is in. So
Indeed. So we're really happy to see that. And, you know, we're coming around that corner. I just want to remind everybody who to remain safe and just do everything that you can in order to stay safe and because, you know, COVID is running rapid all over the place. So thank you so much, everybody. All right, moving on. Oh, so is there a motion to accept the police report?
Councilmember Harding, I'll make that motion stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Councilmember Mendoza, I'll second that.
Right, any further discussion? I'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Melinda?
Ward 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye. See, I was listening to it in Spanish.
This is
I'm
how
sorry,
it's an
aye.
immersion. You'll learn it as you get used to listening to it. The mayor votes aye. Thank you. Okay, moving on to community reports. Do we have a Recreation Council report?
Councilmember Bowles, can you report on it?
Remember I came late. You sent us the update. Do you have that with you? Because I was there about 20 minutes late. I can, if you want me to, I can summarize what I remember.
Yes, please.
Okay, so Vivian, our former council, Vivian Jackson, is a dynamo and a tornado, and she's got a million ideas, and she's very excited. And it was really fun and energizing to be with her and Councilmember Mendoza. Was that yesterday, Melinda? It was yesterday. So we're talking first about Black history. I've sent out a few emails to some county folks who have specialties in particularly local Black history, but as well as talking to some Howard University folks. And we're just talking about different ways to maybe create some programming and projecting forward. If we can't produce those things to happen this quickly, some of them we may actually invite folks to come on the Juneteenth holiday and share some of that history as well. And I believe there were other activities as well that Ms. Jackson has planned, and you will hear more about that as we grow closer. There's going to be Melinda, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe in March, there is planned like a town swap meet, so that if people, is that March, Melinda? Yeah, so that people can bring particularly clothing, but household items that in the spirit of sort of recycling rather than filling up our landfill with things, but maybe bringing them and seeing if anybody else might be able to use something. One man's trash is another man's treasure, as they say. We talked about Easter and possibly doing an Easter egg hunt and some activities with Easter. Someone may be asked to dress up as the Easter Bunny, as has been done in the past. We talked about Juneteenth. And what else am I leaving? Anything else out, Melinda?
There was a lot going on, but the big thing was to just get more participation.
Yes.
So we definitely need more participation, more volunteers.
And that's true for all of our committees. So if you're interested in recreation, that's available to you. We've got Garden Club, Green Team. And if you have an idea for a committee, if you're a citizen that's interested in being a part of the town's function and want to create a committee, please bring that forward as well. So that is it for the Recreation Committee for now.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you guys for keeping it moving forward. All right. Garden Club. I know Doretha is here.
Yeah. She's on board, but sent a message. She's having some technical difficulties. I don't know if she's gonna be able to get those fixed to do a report.
Okay, she sent me some stuff. I can, this Saturday, the 15th, there's going to be a virtual meeting from 10 to 12. If you've not received that information, unfortunately, I do not have that link, but hopefully the town will send that out this week so that you can sign on. And the agenda includes seed starting workshop, wood chops in the East Garden. Julianne's going to talk about the weed warriors and turning compost, laying filter cloth, and a number of other topics, classes for 22, assigning plots and accepting fees. And so there's a lot on that agenda. So it sounds like it's going to be active. And then I had a request from Ms. Epps to ask the council or the town Could the garden club have a link to PayPal placed on its website? Was a question she sent me. So maybe that's something to be discussed with her offline, but she sent that question in.
Yeah, she sent it to me too. So yeah, I think we can check on what is set up. We can have that conversation offline and see if there's a possibility there. So, all right. Is there anything from AWS? Councilmember Harding?
No report.
Okay, thank you. Anything from ATHA?
I'll have more next month, but the exciting news, I believe, is that ATHA is having a meeting soon to announce an expansion of its boundaries. So the organization is potentially going to be expanded so that it has jurisdiction over more parts of Maryland, more parts of Prince George's County. And so the benefits of our organization or that organization can be felt on with a wider net. So I'll let you know how that meeting goes. It's January 25th, I believe. So I'll give a call. So thanks so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much. What's else?
Green team is ready.
Oh, green team. I mean, I'm just looking, I'm going like, I know I'm missing things. Okay.
Okay. So green team typically does not meet in December. So we are meeting this January. We have a scheduled meeting with Mike Honeyhay. Sorry if I butchered his name, on January 25th at 7 p.m. So it will be a Zoom event, and together we will go over the action plan for Sustainable Maryland certification, and we will decide. He will give us an assessment or help us formulate that assessment of the goals that were successful and that were achieved, and also will help us map out future goals for our green goals for our town. And as a reminder, we have started this project of assessment last time in November. The Maryland, the certification is due, recertification, I should say, is due June 30th. So that is on our agenda. Again, please mark your calendar for January 25th at 7 p.m. Also, Ms. Leslie Brooks, our own resident and a veterinarian, proposed several dates for the in-person and virtual workshops that will take place in March and April. So currently we are looking into different dates, Saturdays or Sundays, and also we'll be deciding on a number of themes proposed by Leslie. And some of the themes include dog bite prevention, responsible pet ownership, importance of vaccinations and spay and neuter programs, appropriate ways children can help in caring for animals, safety considerations when on walks, pet safety concerns, how to do on training and the importance of training pets, provide information on low-cost vaccines, spay and neuter and vet clinics, behavior training, etc. So if any of these topics are of particular interest to you, please let us know. Reach out to me. Irina Hobbs at colmarmanor.org, or reach out to the Green Team meeting and let us know what topics you will be particularly interested in to have the workshops on. And I just wanted to, again, to repeat that I have participated in the CERT volunteer training last month. CERT is a community emergency response team. There will be future trainings for an hour announced by the Prince George's County, and we will keep the community informed. And we are trying to engage and recruit more volunteers who would be participating in the same training. So we have a team of in our community that is able to respond to any type of emergency situations that may arise. So this concludes the Green Team report. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you very much, Councilman Hobbs. Do we have anything for the neighborhood watch?
I believe that was well, I guess the chief didn't mention it, but Neighborhood Watch is meeting on the fourth Thursday of this month at 7. As usual, topic to be announced, I believe. Yes, Colmar Manor Neighborhood Watch meets fourth Thursday of the month, which is, goodness, Mayor, help me, what is that date?
The 27th.
All right, so it should be Thursday, the 27th at 7. I believe that it is most likely going to be on Zoom, and the topic will be announced by our former council and Neighborhood Watch liaison, Ms. Blue.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you very much. And we have PGCMA. I will announce if no one has heard that in the special election where Mayor, I'm gonna get her name, the mayor from Upper Marlboro had resigned from her position. There was a special election and Councilmember Mendoza has been voted in as president-elect. So after the next run around, we're going to have, right now, we're going to have Mayor Wuhan.
Believe it or not, it's pronounced Wyan. I found out it's
Wyan, yeah.
Wyan? Really?
Wyan. Yeah.
Wyan. Everybody keeps saying, whoa.
We've been
It's
friends for
Wyan.
years and I call him Vohan and he's never corrected me. He probably so used to hearing it said every way that he just stopped correcting.
I know the feeling. Anyway, so he's now the president in the special election. He moved up automatically because he was president-elect. And our own Councilmember Mendoza has made president-elect, so she will become the next president of PGCMA after this round. So we're so excited for you, Melinda. We got your back, right? So whatever you need, let us know so that you can do what you want to do. Anything that you want to report from PGCMA? You want to talk about the reception?
Yes. So for every year PGCMA has their legislative dinner, but because of the times, we had a first ever legislative meet and greet. So the turnout was awesome, but unfortunately throughout the municipalities, out of the 27 municipalities, they would only let 2 of the elected officials attend. And unfortunately, this time around, it was on our town meeting. So Mayor had to leave right away. But it was a great turnout. We went over our priorities. And yeah, I think it was such a good turnout because I think everybody needed that too. It was just good to see everybody in person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, and Councilmember Mendoza was actively involved in preparing it. It was a very successful event from my point of view, even though I had to leave early. I think that the setup and the way it was designed gave us more opportunity to communicate with our delegates and Senate staff and the county council staff and our council members and the county exec. And so I'm gonna break things down a little bit by saying when I came out, I called my Uber so I could come back here for the town meeting. And there's this beautiful car sitting out there because it said the Uber is here now. And so I go out and there's a car out there and I was like, oh, wow, that's a really nice car for an Uber. And so I just go and grab the door to go inside and the guy was like, whoa, stop. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And he was like, this is the county executive's car. I'm waiting for her. I had to shock my life. I'm like, oh my God. I was just going, why didn't he have the doors locked until he saw her? Please. Anyway, that happened. And then my Uber came around the corner from the other way. But thank you, congratulations, and look forward to working with you on the board as well. And yes, and people, PGCMA does work in terms of pushing our legislative priorities. So it's a good idea to get involved. And I even would suggest joining the legislative committee on PGCMA if there are some things that you feel like Prince George's County needs to be pressing. PGCMA has a lobbyist that spends time in Annapolis during the season to really push for the things that are important in Prince George's County. So I mean, it's an important, it's an important organization. I want to ask, I want to say, Monica, I want to say Happy New Year and Happy Holidays and everything. I believe I see Monica on the line, and we haven't really finalized our proclamation yet for the Hispanic Outreach Committee, but if you would like to report something, let me know.
Thanks, Matt. I'm good for now.
Okay, well, thank you and Happy New Year.
Thank you, the same to you.
All right, so moving on, the next item we have on the agenda is for resident comment. Again, we're doing 3 minutes and we're gonna have to cut off after 3 minutes. So if anybody has any resident comments, please raise your hand and then I'll call on you. Let me see if I can get a full screen. Okay, Monica, please just state your name and the street you're on and your street number that you're on.
Sure, Monica Casañas. I live on 39th Avenue. I think I'm gonna take a little longer than 3 minutes. I hope I can do 3 minutes. I just kind of wanted to say that it's 5 to 10 p.m. So one of the first things that I was gonna recommend is for these meetings, if we can move the public comments to have them earlier, or maybe think through the way these meetings are done, I think that would be really helpful. It's hard for me as someone that's trying to get people to attend these meetings to invite them to attend at 7 p.m. and expect them to stay until 10. Like, it's just not realistic. So I would even suggest for the council members, if there's a way that you can report out on, maybe there's a way to create like a site for each individual council member where they can report out, you know, their updates, and anything that's crucial can be shared at the town hall meeting. That would be something that, you know, I do at work for my work meetings. That way we're not taking up a lot of valuable time that can be spent on doing other things. So that's the first thing, just because I heard your 3 minute time limit. But what I really wanted to say is, Irina, thank you so much for working so hard for the Spanish interpretation. Like, I seriously want to cry. I mean, I think that it's amazing. Some people were on the call and I asked them, hey, what did you think of the interpreters? And they were like, yeah, they're good. So I just want to say, from the Spanish speaking population, thank you. And we appreciate you and all the work that you've done to really push to have this. So just thank you. I also wanted to say thank you for the Santa drive-by in December. That was so much fun. We waited outside and we saw Santa, so that was definitely a treat. I also want to say thank you to Ms. Vivian, the rec committee, the town hall staff, Chief Stone, for such an awesome event in December. And obviously, Doug, like, the highlight for me was the chorus group. They made me cry. I was not in the Christmas spirit. They got me in the Christmas spirit. So I love them, and I hope that they'll come back to the town again. So now that we have the Spanish interpretation, what I'd like to request is that Facebook announcements and postings also be shared in Spanish. So we have them in English, and I see that there are English and Spanish flyers, but I would also request that the postings themselves be translated into Spanish, because that's where I forward people over to kind of like be connected to Colmar Manor, in addition to the WhatsApp group that we have. I also wanted to push again for the paper newsletters. So if we could have the paper newsletters, that would be amazing. I also wanted to ask in regards to the town hall meeting from November. That YouTube video isn't up yet. So I'm asking, why hasn't it been posted up yet? I'd like to see it. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask about was the non-citizen voting document that you shared. I looked on the Colmar Manor Town Hall page. I didn't see it there. I know that there's an electronic format. I'd love to see it. If you can email it to me, if you could share it on the website, that would be amazing. From what I gather, that document is from 2008. So it's 14 years old. If we can get something that's a little bit more current, I think that would also be appreciated. And the other comment that I have is in regards to the ARPA money. I forgot what I heard. Was it stated that we got $1 million?
Yes, we got 1.3 million.
So if we have 1.3 million, what I'd like to ask the town is, why has there been no public input in regards to this money? And why has there not been some type of a needs assessment made for the residents of the town in regards to what their needs are and what they'd like to see the money used for? So some ideas that I'd like to push for is the funding can help residents acquire the skills that they need to get jobs. This could be part of the business chamber. Mari, espera. This could also be used for Wi-Fi for the town, free Wi-Fi for our town. There's definitely a digital divide. This could also be used for English classes for residents. So again, if there's money that has been allocated, I'd like to find out, like, why has this not been open? At least I haven't seen it open for public input. So that's pretty much about it for now. And I'm looking forward to seeing what updates you have in regards to the non-citizen voting after the public comments.
Right, thank you so much. I'll just refer to the one thing, and I appreciate everything that you and all your comments that you made. So the process with the ARPA funds is exactly what we're doing. We brought in a consultant, or we actually just voted to bring in our consultant next week, which will be helping us with building surveys to the community based on the things that can be done with ARPA funds, and bringing in community participation to include the community in the process of how we decide to the funds to be spent. So that is exactly what we've been working on. We put out a request for proposal a couple of months ago, and we just went through the proposals like last month, and then we looked at one that we wanted to see a little bit closer, and then we worked with them a little bit closer. Orientation meeting with them before the end of this month, and then put together the path forward as to how we'll be making the determinations about the money being spent. So the only thing we spent the money on right now is at the maximum is things that related directly to COVID, like testing or that kind of stuff that's very specific, not very much money at all. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Just one more thing. I forgot to add this to my list. So within our WhatsApp group for some Spanish-speaking residents, I realized that there are a lot of myths going around in regards to COVID. So I see on our Facebook page, we've been very active in regards to publishing information on vaccines, local vaccines. But I think it would be really beneficial to have some type of a, maybe every other week, some type of a roundtable discussion in regards to COVID. I got scared from what I saw someone post in regards to vaccines, and it made me kind of think, oh, there might be a lot of people in our town that aren't vaccinated. I know that our town has a lot of people that are very faith driven, and I'm not necessarily sure like what it's advocating to people. I'm hoping that it's advocating the best outcome for the community, but I got a little scared, and I'm hoping that we can have some type of discussions, or maybe a medical expert or someone that can come and talk to residents in regards to myths or questions they may have about the vaccine and about COVID.
And I thank you very much for that question. I want to see how far we can bring this down to earth. We had a meeting with the state officials around COVID just last week, and a part of this is the conversation. And myself, as well as some other elected officials, asked the state, it's like, what can y'all be doing more to tell people more directly about what it is? Because these stories are going all over the place that can be, quite frankly, they agreed that they were going to try to start working. They're going to work on providing us some like messaging that messages more directly to those who we may be having a difficult time reaching. And we'll see what we can get from them. But the roundtable discussion, I don't have anything against trying to do that and see what we can get at the table to see what people have to say. I definitely know some vaccine deniers in my close circle. So it's something everybody should be paying attention to and watching out for themselves. But thank you for your comments always.
Yeah, and maybe we can get the people from the medical, I think, what is it, MedStar that's over here on Bladensburg? I know that one of the doctors had come to the garden party, but maybe just forming a better relationship with them and having them kind of be a part of, the challenge that we have.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. And, we've been moving the public comment up over time. It used to be at the bottom of the agenda, completely at the bottom. So we've been moving it up over time, but unfortunately, I guess we haven't totally get there. But, at the same time, I kind of would like people to listen, and I understand our meetings just get really late, but to hear what we have actually going on sometimes. Is there anybody else, any comments? Let me move my screen so I can see people. Just raise the hand. What can I get? Okay, Maya.
Yes, I thank you so much, everybody, and thanks for this opportunity. I am on Lawrence Street, and I just was coming to check in on the non-citizen voting issue. I wanted to see, since we're commenting, but then there's going to be an update, whether there will be additional time for further conversation, I guess, around this issue.
Sure. Well, it's on the agenda because I promised that I would keep it on the agenda until, I don't know if I have a lot of update. I do want to make sure that what Monica's asked for, that the material that I was speaking to, I wanted to get into the public hand so that we could have a conversation. But in the meantime, for this line item, I was hoping to speak to the council about establishing a date to have a public hearing so that we could bring people out specifically for the conversation. So that was the specifics of this line item, just so that you're not waiting for it. And it's like, oh, you didn't tell me very much. But you can make any comments that you might want to make that would add to the conversation.
Well, I mean, I think just to emphasize again the importance of the issue for the town and for democracy functioning well in the town, and the opportunity to really be a leader on this issue and join some of our peer municipalities, and that there's so many great examples around us to draw from. So it seems like there's a lot of great resources within the county to bring into the conversation too. I know that Monica has already done a lot of that, but just wanted to emphasize my support as well.
Absolutely. Got you. Thank you very much. All right. Does anybody else have any public comment? All right. So moving on, our next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. And we have minutes from September the 7th work session, September the 4th town meeting, October the 5th work session, October the 5th public hearing on the borrowing ordinance, which I believe were submitted prior. You could either make motion to approve individual minutes or make motions to approve the slate of minutes. I will say that I have unfortunately found a problem with the the public hearing on the borrowing ordinance. But I'm open for motions on the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for September 7th of 2021, the work session. September 14th, 2021 town meeting. October 5th, 2021 work session. Minutes.
You said October the 5th work session, and you said September what?
September 14th, town meeting. And September 7th, work session. And make that motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Councilmember Harding, I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion?
May, you mentioned that there are some issues that you found with some of the ordinances. What are they?
No, the issue that I have is with the public hearing borrowing ordinance, the public hearing.
I see.
There is the point with the public comment, and there were questions asked in the comment. Only a partial answer is shown, and no answer. It's a public hearing. We actually have to have what was said, not just mayor answered the question. It needs to be what was said. So I don't. I'm sorry I didn't catch it before now. And looking at it, I was looking at the other ones. But so there's a motion and a second on the table for September the 14th and October the 5th. Is there? I'll call for a vote. Would one?
Wait, to clarify, that motion was for September 7th, September 14th, and October 5th work session.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Mendoza, that's correct?
That's correct.
I just need
Yeah,
your
for the October 5th work session.
And for September 14th town meeting and September 7th work session.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And thank you, Councilmember Harding, for bringing that up. And now you can vote.
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Thank you guys very much. Is there a motion to table October 5th or do we want to?
Councilmember Harding, we can motion to table that.
Okay.
Councilmember Mendoza, I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? So my discussion will be that under public comment, questions asked, don't provide answers that were provided. And that would be my general comment. Other than that, it's pretty simple and pretty straightforward, but the specifics are not there in relationship to that. Any other discussion? I'll call for a vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye. So October 5th is tabled. Mr. Dayton, if you can reiterate issues that we have with that so that that can be brought back to us again. Thank you. Mr. Baden, I would just like to say in general, in the formatting where there is discussions, and I like the format showing the motion, and then the second, a line for discussion. Many of these say discussion, there was discussion. And if there is discussion in the middle of a motion, what that discussion was should be at least summarized, rather than, I've seen it so many times and I can't find one.
sometimes the discussion goes on for a very, very long time, and minutes really only need to reflect the actual action that's taken place. If there is a request by a council member to specifically include a discussion point in the minutes, we try to do that. But we're now 3.5 hours into this meeting, and if you wanted to put every single point that everyone made, the minutes would be very long, and most of it is not pertinent to the actions that actually got taken. So that's what I've been highlighting.
So that's not what I asked for, because I don't want any pinpointing all down to the fact of what took place. But to pull out the essence, or even mention who had a point to make, because to just say took place, meaning that, I mean, and if through our, I don't mind if we wanted to say, and council, you guys can chime in and say how you feel about it, but if we need to say for the record in our discussion, so then you guys know when you're recording it that we want that on the record. Because sometimes you say something in discussion you want on the record, so that when your constituents may be reviewing this, they know that you had a point of view about it, even if you voted for it or against it. So there's a simple example is when we were voting on the speed bumps. I was for getting speed bumps. I wanted it on the record that I was for getting speed bumps, but I voted against it because of the alternative I thought was available. And that's happened with some of our other no votes as well. So I just want to point out, if there's a way to do it, we'll figure it out. It's not about just how long the meetings are. And if guys, I'm okay if we need to say for the record. So you want what your discussion is to be on, and otherwise it's just commentary. Any objections for doing that? So that, okay, we'll do it that way. Thank you very much. All right. Next item on the agenda is non-citizen voting. Like I said, I said we're going to keep it here until we come to where we're going to land on this. I think the next step in landing, I didn't realize that the document did not get out to everyone. Any council members who did not get to see the document I referred to last week? Anyone wanting to make any comments on any new documents that you think may be useful?
If we need to do, I would just comment that if the citizens have a burning desire to share more of their passion on this subject, then I would be highly in favor of having a public meeting. As you mentioned earlier, Mayor, where we invite citizen comment sooner than later, so that they know that we are still listening and that their voices will be heard. So that's my only thought.
So do we want to go ahead and schedule that meeting for the town meeting to happen before the town meeting in February, or a separate date for it? My one concern I do have is in the midst of this COVID, my honest preference would be an in-person meeting where you can literally go, people can literally like communicate, you can see where they are and you can get their hand gestures and whatever it is that they need in order to communicate what they're communicating. But maybe we'll get better participation on the Zoom. But I think moving forward with a hearing is what we should do next.
I agree with you that I would prefer an in-person meeting myself, but we don't know what's going to happen. We now have another variant of the virus that we don't know what's happening with. I think I encourage the town to, if we do it on Zoom, that we expend every effort and every expense to make sure that every single household in town receives the Zoom link and the date. so that every single person who can sign on can make arrangements to do so. That's my thinking on it. I don't know when we will be back together again. I hope it's soon, but you know,
No,
I
it's
don't want
looking-
people to think that we're kicking it down the road, because I'm concerned that they will think that, even if it's not true. If we put it off and put it off and put it off, it'll come across the wrong way.
I agree with you. I mean, even in the midst of there really being a COVID out here that's doing this and everybody knows what's going on, but I can see still that will be kind of how things might be interpreted when that's not the case. It's that, you know, trying to do it the right way and trying to get the right information and having the opportunity to really, you know, bring people together is something we can't do right now. So that's my suggestion, is that we go ahead and schedule it for our February town meeting, second Tuesday of the month, and do exactly what Councilmember Bowles said. Put a significant amount of effort into just really reaching people who may be distracted by so many other things right now. I think Councilmember Harding, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much comment towards our process. I was going to say, I remember bringing up in our former meeting, I believe that was in November, that suggestion of a referendum, and I will be taking that back as of having a conversation with fellow citizens. I'm no longer going to play into the system of politics, because we cannot hide behind the system any longer. It's becoming a snowball effect at this point, where we're either going to have to deal with this big snowball in front of our face, or we're going to have to slow it down. So I wanted to take that off the table. And if public hearing is a step towards the process for a better democracy inside of our town, then that's what we got to do.
If I can also interject, I've had some really energizing conversations with non-Hispanic citizens of varying races in my walks around town about this. And I'm hoping that some of those folks that, you know, they won't leave it just on the back of, you know, the Hispanic Heritage Committee, or sorry, the Hispanic Outreach Committee to speak, because some longtime residents that are African-American, Caucasian are in favor on some level, you know, maybe not all the way, but they have some opinions to share, and they're valuable opinions. And I keep asking folks, you know, I understand the frustration. Sometimes you talk to people on the street and you invite them to the town meeting and then they don't come. But it's like we just keep inviting them, because there's some really interesting and open-hearted ideas out there that aren't just coming from Spanish-speaking folk. And I really hope that they'll come and share their opinion. And the last thing I'll say is, I know that this is, I hear what you're saying, Mayor, and I completely understand that you want the comments to be based on what the citizens hear. But I also think that people may be coming to town hall with a heart full of passion about something that maybe doesn't even relate to our agenda. So I would just lobby for maybe 2 places on the agenda for public comment, maybe one earlier and then one later, just to give people a chance to speak, particularly for those that have kids or something and need to go home. But you set the meetings, but that thought just keeps coming into my head, is maybe give them a couple of chances throughout the meeting to talk. So,
you know, I'm always open to suggestions. So, you know, hearing that, I don't think that's a big deal. We can get someplace in between. I think what I'm going to do, because when we have presentations like we had tonight, I think those are not the kind of things that the residents really feel like they need to go through all of that information. But what is good for them to hear is the treasurer's report and the police report. So maybe we move those to the top, offer a point of comment at that point. They don't take that long to do that. And then go ahead and do other presentations or things like that. And then do another comment after that.
thank
So
you.
I'm good.
I appreciate that.
Good. I think that we can make that work. So that's where we are. Anybody have any issue with us moving forward with scheduling a hearing? The great thing about a public hearing is it's always at the top of the time frame. So it gives people the opportunity to come in right at the beginning and put their information on the table. Any objections? Okay, that's what we're going to do. And I would appreciate, you know, once we put some sort of a flyer or something together, that you guys all work diligently to get that out to your constituents and make sure that we can get as much participation as we possibly can from all sides of thought. Some folks, I think some people may feel intimidated on both sides of this question in terms of what it would be like in order to say what they want to say. So we're good to go. Thank you guys for that. Let's move on. Our next item on here is the Chesapeake Bay Trust Green Street Engineering Grant. I'm only bringing this forward to remind you guys that Miss Jackie asked us to give her an idea of what area of the street that we would want to focus on. I presume from our discussion last month that we're going to wait for our consultant to get us up and running before deciding whether we would put in for a match. I would suggest we just go for it without the match. But then that means that we need to show a smaller area that would be done. Councilmember Harding.
Yeah, the question that I had was pertaining to the match. So when we put down for the match, is that sealing the deal necessarily? I was trying to find the right words, but when we put down for the match and we apply for the funds, are we allowed to reject it? Say if we came down the line through our ARPA session that wasn't something we wanted to go along with, but just providing the option with Ms. Goodall to go forth with getting the funds, say that we'll match it.
Well, let me see if Dan can help us there, because I've never been in that position before. Sometimes you can get yourself in a bad position if you get awarded something. I've actually seen that happen to a town before where they got awarded something and then they said, oh, no, send it back, we don't want it. And then they got put on the do not award list for a couple of years, like you turned us down. Dan, have you experienced where somebody in two places, one, that they pulled their application back before an award happened, and or if somebody was awarded but then said we don't want it because we're not going to match?
I've not really seen that. I've seen if you're awarded a grant under a certain program that they will not award you subsequent grants until you expend the funds that you already have. So like program opens or community parks and playground, if you submit for a park grant and you don't use that, the next year, if you haven't used it, they will not, they'll let you turn in an application, but they usually will not award it to you because you haven't spent what you have. So, and I also haven't ever pulled back a grant, but I don't think that they would look favorably on that. If you applied, you're given the money and you pull it back. The only time I've seen that was with Safe Routes to School grant in one of my other towns, where the onus they put on us in order to actually go through and get the grants, the town did not want to do that. So we just said, you're putting too much of a burden on us. We no longer wish to be, you use the grant funds. So, not exactly the same scenario, but, some other examples.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Dan. That was really.
All right. So anyway, I just wanted to remind you guys, so because if she's going to now, I've already told you where my area was. I want to just go ahead and stick with the fact that we said we're going to go through this process in terms of the ARPA, and maybe later on. I mean, sometimes with these grants, if something happens in between, that you can do an amendment to the grant even after it comes in. We just did that with I think it was with the business workplace, because it was an open space grant. And so when we heard back from them and they were going like, yeah, this is sounding more like business, where's the open space? They let us go in and make a revision to say why it was supposed to be open space specifically. So all of them work a little bit differently. So if we did decide that we want to spend money that way, we can probably go in with a backup on that, maybe. But I would say that we go in without the match and see where it goes from there. And then we just pick an area. I already feel like the area I want to pick is Newton, Newark Road, and 43rd Avenue. But I would love to hear from you guys if you have a different opinion than that before sending her off writing the grant. Any thoughts on?
Yes, I think so this concept note addresses flood mitigation efforts. And I know there's some areas in our town that are constantly flooded. I think that would be a good priority to include it in the plan, in the grant, to address this issue.
It's the point is where, so for me, the reason why I say Newark Road and 43rd is because I see the standing water after rain. 3 days after it's rained, the water is still sitting there. No one can cross the street from, cross over Newark Road from 43rd without going fully into the street because the puddle is so large. That is, there's no jumping over the puddle. It's a lot and it's there for several days. So from a flooding perspective, that one is the one that sets. I mean, we've got a few more, but this one is already in a concept plan and an engineer is going to want at least a concept plan to move forward. So that's included in the concept.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a comment. It's not directly related, but just to give an update on the American Rescue Plan funds. Most of the council has probably seen some correspondence over the last week that the final rule has come out from the Treasury on how you could use the ARPA funds. It was issued last Thursday, so it's now gone from a 160-page document to a 437-page document. But the one positive outcome from the final ruling is that you could make a one-time election to use up to $10 million of the grant. Now for us, it's up to 10 million or the amount of your grant. So for us, it's $1.3 million. You could use that for lost revenue. Whereas before you had to use a formula. So now you could either use a formula or a one-time election. And what that does for us is it now makes eligible, if you make the one-time election, all $1.3 million of the grant funds can be used for any governmental purpose. You don't have to go into any of the major categories within the grant itself. So it's a big change, which opens up the doors to really any program that we want to do, as long as it's governmental purpose, which is what we do. I did talk to the consultant briefly about this on Friday because it came out and, I was talking to him about the agreement. And I said, is this how you read it? He says, yes, I do. And that, he was going to go, digest the rest of it and talk about it, but I did want to put that out there. So as you all think about projects at this point, I believe we could use it for any governmental purpose. If we make that one-time election, which seems like the smartest thing to do, you could still incorporate any of the other programs in there if you want, stormwater management, but sky's the limit at this point as to what we want to do with that money.
So even if it's not a formula, don't you still have to have the lost revenue?
Nope. And basically what they say is anyone who has $10 million or less, you now have carte blanche. Whereas, when you get it into the lost revenue component, you then opens you up to infrastructure costs, which before were excluded. So now you could do anything you want with the lost revenue component, and
not just stormwater management, but
stormwater management was a whole nother category. Stormwater management, broadband, battling the COVID or negative economic effects, and premium pay. Those were the four major and lost revenue. Now you could just designate it as lost revenue, and if you do that, then you could use it for any governmental purpose and you don't have to do the lost revenue calculation if you make that election. So just wanted to throw that out there. I should have given it to you in my treasurer's report because, it's a major development. And, I'm sure in the first meeting, the consultant will be able to substantiate that. And, if there's any other thing that we need to know regarding it, but that's pretty much the direction, I think we'll be going.
Okay, well, I mean, that's good to know. What else is in the other part of 400 pages that might counter it? Make sure that before.
Yep, and if any of the council's interested, there is a meeting with the state consultants at 1 o'clock tomorrow, which will highlight that point. They've already had one on Friday and one yesterday. This is the exact same one. They are offering 3. It was put out by MML, where the state consultants will highlight the changes in the new act. I can send you all the link.
Thank you, Dan.
But it is at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay, please do send it.
So sorry to
talk-
interject that, but thought in the discussion may be important.
That's very useful.
The mayor
Thank you.
also announced, not the mayor, the governor also announced many millions will be expended for relief, homeowner relief as well. So that this is why I was excited about the idea of having someone help us winnow through all the possible ways of benefiting the citizens, and so that we could use our ARPA funding to our greatest advantage. If there's something coming from the state that can help our citizens that we don't have to spend that ARPA money on, then don't spend that ARPA money on it, and let's improve our town.
Absolutely.
And Mayor, you're right about the flooding, because when you all, I was going to ask, when you all did the Newark Street, Green Street project, was Newton ever discussed? I know it would be another several $1 million, but we have several pooling spots on Newton. You mentioned one at Newton and 43rd. There's also one at Newton at 41st. And I think there's one up near 39th. We have a bunch of pooling spots in town. And it almost feels like Newton is in dire need of some attention.
Yeah, so they're all, I mean, you'll notice if you look back on that assessment that was done, that the Newton Street is on there, and in these locations, in different locations. But when we put in the grant application for concept plan, you have to sort of like consolidate it into an area that they feel can be reasonably done. It's already going to be, it's going to be $1 million street at the end of the day, after all of the pieces that you put in, probably maybe not quite $1 million, but maybe 600. And so you've got to do it in its pieces. I mean, it's just hard. I'm like hoping that some of this infrastructure money will drip down. Jackie feels like it's not going to drop down past the county, but I'm hoping that they think infrastructure past the county, and we can get some infrastructure money, fix some of the curbs. Because the broken curbs, take a lot of money to get those things repaired too, and everything. So actually what Dan just said is actually exciting news, because let somebody slip,
Yep, we got a bunch of lifted sidewalk sections around town too that need to be corrected, and they're all over town.
Indeed, and then all those things are like really expensive things that, it's hard to just find the regular money to go and do. And you want to find a pocket of money somewhere, but we're all on the same page. Absolutely. If the state has the money first, if the county has the money second, and then if the federal government money is in there, let's get all of that first before we go with the house. But if we're working with a good list that we know, then what we're doing, we're creating a roadmap. So we'll stay on point with that. All right, next thing on the agenda. So the property tax receivable policy, I put it here, Dan.
Sorry, so Mayor, did we arrive to any conclusion on this one? So on the grant application and on the areas?
Well, I didn't. At this point, I was asking if anybody had any other areas that other than what I'm recommending. that we can suggest that Jackie look at. So I didn't hear anybody give me any other areas.
Okay, and so basically we come to the conclusion that we will be applying for a grant. It's not a matching grant, correct? And
Correct.
yeah, and I remember Ms. Goodall mentioned that it's much harder to get that way.
That's correct.
Mhm.
It's not a no, though. I mean, you can
Yeah.
still get them, but they're more, they feel like it's more likely some things will get done
If you like putting your money, like you putting like a commitment as a town. So I imagine that's why. So are we going with number 1 or number 2, a conceptual plan? It seems like a lot of plans and designs. Or we're doing
no,
the
we're
green
going with
street?
number 2,
3,
engineering. We're
the
doing
engineer.
engineering.
Okay, number 2. Okay, well, that seems like, yes, the smaller grant, like 30,000. Okay. Yes.
So the area has to make 30,000 work. We spent, again, Dan, you want to remind me, what about for the intersection at 40th and Newark for engineering?
Engineering was about 30,000 total with permit fees, and construction was about 92,000.
So we need an area similar to that. I mean, and construction costs might be a little bit high. I mean, not construction costs, but engineering might be a little bit higher now, who knows? But we need a space. They need to know if we put in the application that what we're asking for is enough money to get it done. So that's why we have to make it small enough that they can make that believable. Like, okay, they could, $30,000, they can still get that space done. That helps, because a part of the reason why they want you to put money in is because they know that the amount of money that they're giving you is not enough to do big projects. So you have to make sure your project fits the dollars that you're asking for when there's no match.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. There's a little bit of time. I mean, if they're going to make some sort of adjustment, but the sooner she can start working on it, the better. You might be able to go ahead and start, even if it's not the exact same location, and because it's still going to be that small of a space to work with. But I just want to know, is there any objections with her moving forward with a non-match application? All right, so we'll go with that. So the next thing is the property tax receivable policy. Dan, what's your progress?
I've not done anything on that since last week.
Okay, so we'll have this on the work session agenda so we can have further conversation and maybe we can get something before the meeting. So the pay power policy, I put down here, as mentioned earlier, there was 3 vendors that happened in the last 2 years from the PayPal. One is the storage on my phone. One is because I have the business card scan. And the third one was a single payment to the band that was at Juneteenth because they thought that they were getting paid right away. They didn't have a way of accepting credit cards, and otherwise we do checks, which takes them a couple of days. Now, my stance on this, and I again have to move this to the work session because I was planning on trying to draft something up, because one of the issues that I have continuously had, and the auditors didn't note it, but in our audit process, where the signers of the checks get to see the paperwork of what they're signing, and then the audit committee gets to see what the checks were, but without the backup. When we do the check for the credit card, when we audit the check for the credit card, we can never see, audit committee can never see what got purchased. So with everything else we can see what's got purchased, but we can't see what got purchased with the credit cards. The credit card is actually in the same kind of a space like the PayPal, where it's not getting an audit review for payments. It gets 1/2 because the people who are signing it can look at it. There's a lot of stuff that's usually in it. And this is something that I tried to get started before. Councilmember Hobbs might note that at the top of our form, credit card is one of the options up there, but we never see the credit card.
Why don't we see credit card statements? I wonder.
Well, the process and the policy hasn't been put into place. So I think this is an opportunity in putting together this PayPal policy is to also include the process of the credit card coming to the audit committee after the bill is paid. So that we get to then see what got paid on that credit card. Because for me, being on the audit committee has always been a mystery, except for, you know, things that I've participated with specifically, what are the things purchased. So I'm gonna do the draft up on this one, on terms of how we all get our eyes on what happens and whether or not we use PayPal for payments at all. But at the end of the day, no matter what we do, everybody here should have an opportunity to see what has transpired. So I'll work on that and have something for us to have a conversation about next work session as well.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's fine if you want to develop a policy so everyone could see the credit card bill or, you know, the PayPal purchase. But the issue the auditors have is that charges were put on the PayPal account without any backup documentation. So there was no purchase order. We have a purchase order system. So when items are purchased on the town's credit card, a purchase order is supposed to be issued and backup documentation, an invoice or something is included with that so that when the bill comes in, you have something to match it up to. So the only thing the auditor is asking, which I think is an easy fix, is that if you are going to allow charges against the PayPal, is that you follow the same procedures and you have backup documentation, you know, an invoice from the DJ and or a purchase order in the case of that, and then you have documentation. So I think it's as simple as saying if the council wants to allow purchases through PayPal, that you would follow the same purchasing policies that we already have in place. Now, if you want to also go a step further and want to implement something as far as providing, you know, the bank statements to whoever, the audit committee, you know, we could do that as well, but it's the substantiation and authorization of the purchase versus it just showing up on PayPal. So it's similar to credit card purchase is what they're looking or asking for.
And that's useful. I mean, that's useful information. I don't know how you do that with the auto charge for, I mean, we can write the purchase order, right? There's an auto charge where it's just automatic. It's only the point of the time when you first did it that you have something that says, okay, go charge this automatically. But that's useful. That's useful in how to prepare the draft policy.
Yeah, it'll be the same as like the, you know, recurring charge is the same as like the copier lease. You know, we don't do a purchase order every month because we had a contract to begin with that says we're going to pay, you know, X amount of dollars every month. So you don't have to do a purchase order every month for the copier lease. So, you know, if there's a recurring charge for your data, then, you know, whatever the original agreement was that spelled that out, you know, if we have that, that's documentation.
Right. I mean, but there's another step that needs to go in here in terms of us updating this policy, and it's a reconciliation. It's a cash account and should be reconciled like a bank account is reconciled. And then we have that process of reconciliation tends to ensure that those kind of things are taken care of, which, you know, also includes like petty cash and a monthly reconciliation. So that reconciliation can tell you what's also in there. So that's a piece that needs to go along with it as in terms of building the policy. But we'll get there. But thank you for that information. That's helpful.
If I can just interject, I'm not on the audit committee and I haven't signed any checks for the town of Colmar Manor since the December of the year I was elected. So I don't have my eyes on anything. And I believe when we passed the budget ordinance for this year, the hope was that the distribution of requirements and responsibilities would be evenly distributed. But to my knowledge, no reassignment has been done. So I don't see statements and I don't sign checks. So I just want to bring that to the Council of Mayor's attention and let that be known. So.
All right, and I believe though, and I don't know how to best break it down. I mean, I guess we could have a third audit because you are a signer.
I am a signer, but I am never asked to sign.
I hear you. I hear you.
And I've only ever signed once. And it's been more than a year and several months ago. So I'm just expressing concern.
Yeah, I feel it. We'll work something out.
Thank you.
You are. All right. Anybody has anything else to present for the good of the order? Okay, well, with that said, I want to thank you all very much. I want to thank the participants who have stayed on, to hear our whole story, and look forward to a new year and what we can do to better the town of Colmar Manor to the best of our abilities. Right? And thank you all. I appreciate every last one of you. Y'all
Right.
have a good night.
I thought you had to make a motion for adjourn.
Oh, making a motion for adjourn. Like I was, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion as stated.
I'll second that, Councilmember Harding.
Okay, we got Bowles and Harding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night,
you. Good
everyone.
night.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone. Be safe. Take care.